why it's really important to have a plan. Have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about a permanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, to where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and D-gentlemen of all ages. We're back for another installment of Book Club. This is number 33, and today we're talking about The Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. I think I got that right, and I hope that we continue not to completely butcher it through the rest of the stream, but that is what we're covering tonight. This is a book. There's actually a recommendation of a good friend of ours, Mr. Angry Twinkie, who, by the way, had a pretty killer stream last night with our other good buddy, Crypto Boogie, aka US Crypto Boogie is the YouTube channel, and Dollar Cost Crypto is on there as well. It was a fun show. Recommend you go check them out. So, Twinkie, thank you for the recommendation. It was a shorter read this time around, but at the same time, this is it's a wordy book, I'll put it that way. And then with me tonight to help interpret all the words, we have some masters of language themselves. First off, my excellent co-host, Mr. Will Stevenson. How's it going, brother?
Aloha. I'm doing great. I'm drinking some delicious Leinenkugel's summer shandies. So
that's killer.
That's what's going on for me tonight. And then I got some Little Caesars that I'll be turning my camera on or off if I start eating. Because you guys don't eat on stream. Never eat live on camera, never eat in,
don't eat phallic objects on stream either. I was gonna say I'm confused tonight because I did my stream prep, so I poured myself a nice silver bullet, and then I also was like, I'm gonna take a quick 10-minute nap before stream. So then I was really tired, and I was like, oh, good thing I have that coffee left over still. So now we're going full ahead and full astern, so to speak.
I've got an advice unit for you, Zenith, and perhaps
Stop
you know more
mixing my uppers and downers, and my heart will thank me one day.
No. First off, get yourself a Coors Light beer koozie for a little sock for your delicious beverage drink here. But second, if you're gonna take a nap, take it in a 30-minute interval, and if you're gonna do like any sort of sleeping, do it in a 90-minute interval. So that way you can get one full REM cycle in. Because if you start like butchering those numbers, then you get like mixed up sleep cycles and it fucks with your shit. This is one of the things that Andrew Huberman talks about, and of course, like, everybody's different. So if you found a thing that works for you, great.
Hey, Twinkie's here.
But hell yeah, Mr. Angry Twinkie, good to see you. I had a great time listening to your stream last night, bro. I was playing Sea of Thieves the entire time. I was up until like fucking 2 in the morning over here, which means that, fuck, dude, they were up till like 3 in the morning. But anyways, enough about me.
We gotta get going.
We got more panelists. I'm doing great. Mrs. and Mr. McGettit, how are you guys doing?
Hello, can you all hear me? I'm having
yes, we can. Your audio sounds good.
Awesome. StreamYards is being a little iffy, so if things happen, just bear with us, friends. I'm doing good. Finally, not sick anymore. Hopefully, that stays that way. But don't know, because when the little starts kindergarten next month, it might be constant, because he'll be going full regular schedule now, 6 hours a day and 5 days a week, and so I'm a little bit worried about that. Other than that, we're doing great. This book was interesting. There's a lot of different versions of it out there, because I guess it was translated, and there's a couple of different people who have translated it from what I could tell. So the version that I got into was on YouTube for free, hour 46 minutes, I believe was the total time. So I'm more looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it. And I read through some summaries as well. But for me, it left me a little bit confused. So I'm excited to hear what the rest of the panel has to say, and kind of help get my brain more in tune with everything going on in here.
Fair enough.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. No, this book actually was pretty. I could see why some people would find it hard to understand, because number one, it's like there's a lot of philosophical stuff in it, but then number two, it's like the things that you can kind of like extract out of it for your daily life or business life or whatever tends to be in the form of, you know, slashing swords and stuff like that, you know, the the actual martial arts itself. And so you're like, yes, if I imagine myself in a business situation of trying to take the initiative to slash someone first, you know, it's like, okay, it's a little violent thinking, you know, but I could see where it'd be valuable, you know, if you're able to make that transfer. But that was just me. So it was an okay book.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into our where it falls on the 10,000 hours scale later on towards the end of the episode, but I can see this honestly falling on either end, although probably more like middle to end in my personal opinion, but we'll talk about that later. Other than that, right now, we do need to greet the good people out in the audience. Mr. Will Stevenson, if you can.
You guys already know it's time for motherfucking chat shoutouts, baby. The best part of the show.
All right.
Hang out with the folks.
All right. Mrs. Producer, if you do not mind, can we get the good people on screen? First up, first DJ in the chat tonight, we have Funkmaster Hex saying, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you, sir. Tip of the glass and the tip of the hat. Glad to have you, my man. Up next, we have number 2. We already showed him a little bit earlier. We got Mr. Ringu Twinkie, says personal favorite. That's right. Book of 5 Rings is a personal favorite recommendation of Twinkie. So thank you for the recommendation. I hope that we do you proud. And if you have any different thoughts as to what we're covering tonight, let us know. Up next, we got 54 Cent. Says, what's up, DJs? Great stream last night, Twinksters. Yes, agreed. Good stream. Then one more, I believe. Should be it. Yes, Hex Glenn saying, nice intro. It's a good old intro. Slightly different than the one we've started premiering on Wednesdays. But yeah, back to Old Faithful, if you will. Alrighty, excellent. That covers all of the pre-show stuff. So let's get to it. First off, one of the things I want to cover very first with this one is I want to delve into who's the author a little bit, because this book, I think, it needs a lot of context about who the author is and how they live their life, and that kind of gives you context into the rest of the book, because otherwise you're going to be wondering, why is a man fighting with swords in the 21st century? But no. Miyamoto Musashi, born in 1584 in Japan, is one of the most renowned samurai and swordsmen in the history of Japan. His life, which crossed the late Sengoku and early Edo periods, don't know what those are, was marked by significant historical and cultural changes in Japan. From a young age, Musashi was immersed in martial arts and the way of the warrior, initially learning under his father, Shinmen Munisai, an accomplished martial artist and swordsman. Musashi actually became a ronin, or a masterless samurai. But one of the big accomplishments about Musashi was that he is one of the most decorated Japanese swordsmen or samurai in history, because his life is actually kind of told through a series of duels that go on throughout the entirety of his life. And a lot of the duels he fought were duels to the death. And it's kind of an interesting thing, because this actually happened before like the 1700s and 1800s, where dueling was starting to get outlawed in the rest of the world, because especially over in France and Europe, I want to say, they realized that, oh wow, if we just let the royals duel it out, we run out of royals. It's like, oh crap. But yeah, so Musashi was very decorated. I think he won over 60 duels or something, and he even defeated a lot of very other popular people at the time. I don't know if he ended up killing the other popular swordsmen, but it does say there were duels to the death. So it's kind of this weird thing where it's like you're kind of breaking a stained glass window by testing it with a hammer, but at the same time you're like, I wonder how strong this is. And the answer is either, well, it's so strong that it lasted, or it's, oh no, we broke a beautiful work of art.
So there was there were people that he fought that used, like, they chose to use bokken, the wooden swords and stuff, and there were people that that were not dueled to the death. That's one of the things that they talk about in the there's a synopsis that I posted in the DGen Roundtable Book Club chat, which I'll go ahead and send a link to right now. If you guys aren't already a part of the DGen Roundtable Book Club, I would highly suggest you get in there if you want any of my or Zenith's or Nate's or even Battle Hardened Sniper posting some thoughts and notes in there. But yeah, they were talking about it in that synopsis that I posted, that he didn't fight everyone to the death. There were some people that he just like broke their faces, or like there were some people that he just smoked and messed them up real good or whatever. But they were not all duels to the death. Although I think that they said that he won over, you were saying over 60 or something, right? That was what those were the numbers.
That is what the historical record shows.
Fucking crazy, man.
Yeah, they kind of surmised that it was probably more than that. But, you know, obviously those ones don't get on the record, so.
True. So I don't think any of us here are Japanese historians, but one of the things that I've heard in passing of my brief touch on Japanese history is that there was a bit of a transition right around the time that Miyamoto lived, which is that it was very much old samurai way, was actually kind of the large dominating political class, just due to the fact of the amount of skill and intensity and training for a dedicated lifetime is required to master the craft, but then also there's a bit of leadership that goes with it, and they were kind of the ruling political class at the time. But then ultimately what ended up happening is that through the invention of gunpowder and good old firearms, is that they were kind of replaced because they were no longer necessary to conduct warfare or combat in the area, because it was so much cheaper and effective just to hand some in scripted recruit saying, hey, take this thing and go point it over there and pull a trigger, as opposed to go spend 20 years of your life mastering the way of the blade and then we'll talk. It's like there's a very different thing going on. And I did want to try to get my facts straight on this one. So there's two kind of times that firearms were introduced in Japan. The first one is as early as 1270, but what I'm seeing is that they were more popularized around like 1540-ish by a Portuguese adventurer that kind of shipwrecked on the island, and that is where they became more and more popularized. One of the interesting things is that Miyamoto actually does mention firearms in the book, but he still very much is a guy that is about his way of fighting with the two swords, the larger katana and the smaller katana-esque wakizashi, I believe it is called.
Yep.
But it's interesting to see like how this guy lived in a period where there were some things that were emerging technologies that ultimately would kind of make this guy and his way of life obsolete. But at the same time, like, he does understand that there's a time and a place for it, but then he can still iterate the reasons and the time and place for the stuff that he cared about the most, or the stuff that he had spent the most time with anyways.
There's a and like that's one of the things that I liked a lot about his style of or the way that he was talking about everything is like, look, bros, there's a time and a place for everything. Like some of the stuff that you're gonna learn, or like some of the tools that you're gonna learn, like the spear and the halberd are the best tool, right? Halberd's more defensive, spear is more offensive. They're both better than katana and stuff, but like, you know, you can use a katana all the time, and a spear is basically like only for battle and stuff. So there's like it was neat to hear like a dude that was so good at something say that, look, guys, there's more than one option. You don't have to just pick a Glock or just a Beretta or just an AR-15. Like you could there's a time and a place for everything. So I was quite pleased to see that and hear that.
True. Yeah, that's one of the things we're going to talk about, which is that it's clear that he was not some guy that was very committed to his own bit and trying to make it like work and try to demand that it has value for all eternity. Because one of the quotes that I even highlighted was that he talks about how a good general should not have a favorite weapon or favorite style of fighting. Instead, they should like understand that there's a time and a place for everything and not be opposed to any style or tactic realistically.
Yep.
So, I mean, obviously the whole culture of honor is very big in Japan, and even like this, where we talk about he becomes a Ronin, which is his master was eventually killed, or he is forsaken by the master and becomes a masterless samurai. So it's like, I'm not saying that he's exactly endorsing honorless tactics, but he's understanding that there's many different ways to fight.
Yep.
Yeah. One of the big things that I found kind of interesting when you think about it is like with him saying, you know, like, hey, yeah, just try out a bunch or have be masterful in several different weapons. I was thinking to myself, like, or no, it wasn't that. Sorry. It was many different weapons and then also different styles is what stood out to me. And the styles was making me think of like the MMA, right? Where what is the best technique for fighting? And everyone's always arguing, oh, it's my way, it's my way, it's my way. Well, next thing you know, you get this league, right, where you get a bunch of people to do all their styles of fighting, and next thing you know, only certain like 5 or 10 of them actually stand out to the point where it's like only those people are the true winners, you know. And I kind of believe I mean, this was a long time ago, but I think he was kind of hitting on that, where you can't just do one single thing, because if you're a one-trick pony, you're really, really, like, you may be fantastic being that one-trick pony, but there's a lot of ways that you can easily be countered. And especially if you become known for that one thing, it's like, oh, people can literally strategize against that one thing, and then you're just wrecked, you know. So
another one of the quotes that I pulled out was he talks about if you going too far in one area is also the same as not going far enough in general. So it's like, yeah, don't be the one trick pony.
Yeah, it's actually a leadership sort of thing that I've heard a lot too, is master of none, but being extremely good at all.
Jack of all.
Jack of all trades. Yeah.
Jacques
Yeah,
of all trades.
Yeah. So no, I respect him for that. That's one of those things where, you know, you can definitely take that into like business leadership and all that. You don't need to master this one thing and be extremely good at it in the factory or whatever, right? You can do everything decently well, and then at that point, you're able to direct and guide people who have mastered that one thing, you know?
One of the things they talk about in the book is like, hey, it's like silly how some people have like the school of the short sword, the school of the long sword, the school of the, you know, this, that, or the other thing. And it's just like, it made like, when I heard that, I was like, oh, it's like the school of rock, the school of paper, the school of scissors. And it was just like, no, bro, you need to know when to use the right tool in the right system. That was a funny thing that I wanted to reflect on.
Gotcha. Alrighty, the final bit of a contextual preface for the discussion I want to have is obviously the guy is a warrior at heart and how he lived in his life. And the way that he writes about primarily focuses about when you have an opponent or some sort of enemy in opposition. Obviously, we live in the 21st century here, which means that we are not on a battlefield. Very thankful about that. But at the same time, trying to be able to take some of these concepts and translate it. Because one of the particularly the third book or the third chapter in this one is the Book of Fire, which is specifically about like aggression and initiative. And that is a chapter that is very heavily focused on fighting an opponent and how to like keep your opponent on their heels. Can't really do that in real life with us on the super like one-to-one translation level. So that one, and I imagine that chapter in particular, we're going to have to extrapolate a little bit and use the gray matter inside our heads to understand what is applicable and what is not. So what did you guys think about listening to the Book of a Warrior, if you will? Is it super applicable to today? I mean, obviously there are lessons from the philosophical side, but even when he's talking about fighting an opponent specifically, were you able to draw a lot of value out of that?
Oh, that's first mover advantage is what he's talking about there. First mover advantage is like in businesses, right? Always win out. Well, not always, but most of the time, right? So just take the initiative. However, if you take the initiative first and you are a first mover advantage, right, you also end up with all the problems and you got to solve all those problems, and or somebody else can come along right behind you just with a very clean product. Yeah. Yep. With a clean product and just miles ahead of you, you know, and just be way better. So there is that as well. But, you know, there is something to be said about taking initiative immediately upon something new happening, right? So yeah.
I like that part of the book a lot, where he was just basically saying you need to just like, not you need to, but the person that makes the move, the aggressor, is oftentimes the winner. And one of the things that they were talking about in the summary is that like
not in Overwatch.
Well, yeah. So there's instances where right. So Overwatch is a little bit different than real life, you know, slicing and cutting and all that stuff. But one of the things that was in the summary, I really liked the summary on YouTube, by the way. Like the book was decent, but the summary on YouTube, like it put all the thoughts of the book in like a reasonable order, and it cut out a lot of like the sword fighting specific stuff, or it found a way to apply it to like normal day life and everything. So it was much more digestible. But the oh shoot, what was that? What were we talking about? First, move fast. That's right. Okay, so the people that win fights are the aggressors. Generally, they're not the defenders. The people that are defending, they're waiting for the other person to make the move, and the other person making the move is always going to be the one like making the decisions. One of the things that they talked about specifically is like, one of the things that you can do to force the other person to move is like you can make a feint. You can make like a, hey, I'm going to pretend to do this, so that way I can purposefully elicit you to have this preset reaction that I'm planned for, and I'm ready to fucking smoke you as soon as you make that predictable step. So like you can be the first mover by forcing the other person to make a move that you want them to make, or something along those lines. I thought that
leading them, right?
Yeah, leading them, and then just the idea of like being quick, being fast, and adapting while you go, and not sticking to any one particular path or one. There is no one trick pony that's going to solve all your problems. It's all a bunch of reading your opponent, reading the blade, reading everything. That was another thing he talked about. Is like, don't focus on like any particular one part. You don't look at just his feet to adopt, to like learn what his stance is. You don't look at just his sword to see where he's going to swing next. You don't just look at his eyes to see what he's looking at. It's like you take in the whole essence, the whole like everything all combined into one, and you have to just kind of like make a whole bunch of calculations all at once. What did you have, Dave? It sounded like you had a thought there, bro.
Yeah, no. I was just it's just one of those passing thoughts that I thought it when I first heard it in the book, and it kind of, and that's basically what happened here as well. So thought gone.
Fair enough.
All right.
Alrighty, gentlemen, before we get into the meat of the discussion, the final little point I wanted to tie this all together with is one quote where he says, if you know the way broadly, you will see it in everything. And that, I think, is one of the best ways to describe this book, which is that this is the idea of cross-training, aka if you practice, if you train for running, good chances are you're going to need running in a lot of other sports or aspects of your life. So it's good for many other things than just the single sport you're looking at. So in this case, the way for Musashi is when you learn to study things, you can start to kind of see the thread that ties the world and everything together. And I think that we can see that a bit because we just talked about how, are we dueling to the death 60 times in our lifetime nowadays? No, but at the same time, there are lessons we can learn from this. So with that being said, let's get into it. So the book is split into 5 sections. There is no...
I was just wondering, before we get into this, we did have someone who just arrived in the chat. I was wondering if we wanted to shout him out real quick.
Sure, is that Ramon?
Yeah, Ramon.
Ramon Carrillo. Saying, sup, fam.
Aloha,
you,
Ramon. What's up,
Great
bro?
to see you.
Good to see you, man. Ramon, I'm shooting you a DM on Telegram. But anyways, continue, Zenith.
All right, let's get into it. The Book of 5 Rings, shocker, it's 5 books tied into one book. You can kind of think of each of the books as a chapter in it, and one of the nice things is that there is no introduction chapter because that is just the first chapter, and they do mention that specifically, which is kind of nice. So we have the Book of Earth, the Book of Water, Fire, Wind, and I've seen multiple translations for this last one. It's either emptiness or the void. So to start off, the Book of Earth lays the foundation of Musashi's philosophy and strategy. It's a sort of introduction to the way of the warrior and the principles of the man's strategy. Up next, we have book number 2, the Book of Water. It describes his specific martial techniques. This is the two-sword technique that he uses, and the principles of swordsmanship. It explains the importance of flexibility, adaptability, similar to water. This is a big shout-out, or I guess Bruce Lee is a big shout-out to Musashi when he talks about, like, be like water, which is be fluid and flexible and move where you need to move. Book number 3 is the Book of Fire. It talks about the heat of battle, covering the importance of aggression and initiative. It's about understanding the dynamics of combat, gaining an advantage over one's enemy, and seizing the moment. This one is, I like this one because I think, it's either this one or the Book of Water that talks about timing, and I think that is an important concept that he goes over. Up next, we have the Book of Wind. This is a critique and analysis of the techniques and philosophies of other schools of swordsmanship. Here, Musashi points out the dangers of adhering too rigidly to any specific style. This is a good one. It's a bit of he lays out a good foundation, and then he kind of re-examines it a little bit and says, hey, here's some corner cases or things to avoid, pitfalls. And then lastly, this book, the Book of Void, or the Book of Emptiness. This is a 3-minute chapter in the book, but at the same time, arguably, this is the most philosophical chapter in the book because it talks about some like very loosey-goosey ideas, if we will. Or this is almost, what was the one book? The Power of Now, is it?
Yeah, I think that was the Power of Now, where he's...
That was the one. I missed that one. Fuck.
The Power of Now.
Yeah.
That was a great book, dude. I fucking
it got a little
that
woo
book.
at the end.
I'm pissed that I wasn't on for that, but I can't remember.
I think Musashi does it better than that book in a 3-minute segment. Granted, he doesn't get nearly into the amount of depth of the idea of it, but I think he captures some of the essences that the Power of Now was really trying to lay out. So there's a bit of a callback for anybody that caught our episode on that one. I know some of us were kind of looking at that book going, this is a bit out there. I know
It's
I was
like
in
the
that
first
camp
part,
for a bit.
yay. Second part was like, what? Okay.
I was like, what for most of it because I thought it was kind of contradictory, but that is neither here nor there. All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about the first book, the Book of Earth. This is the one where we do get one of my favorite parts of this book was the analogy, which is that there's a few different things that you can be in life, but there's something to learn from each one of them, which is that you can be the soldier, the samurai, you can be the craftsman, or you can be a merchant. And then all of them have things to learn from each other, which is that if you are the craftsman, then theoretically you are carrying your tools to go do a job. You do the job, and effectively any time after that, you should be working on your tools. Then additionally, we have the merchant, which is that this is the person who is all about timing, aka they take their wares to place, and they find the correct time and place to sell it to ensure that they're consistently making a profit. And then finally, we have the way of the soldier, which is, I think he related it a lot more to the way of the craftsman, which is that instead of building houses, you're effectively just doing your craft or doing your military service. But at the same time, just like the craftsman, anytime that you're not actively out doing the mission, you're honing your tools. And in this case, the tool is either your physical tools or yourself. So the good old Grantham quote of "You are the weapon, so be trained and get fit or die."
Get fit or die. That's also good. Man, I'm gonna put that in the notes for this book. Get fit or die. Keep going. Or
True.
Was that all you had on that?
That is about all I had on this one. I wanted to see what you guys pulled out of this chapter, or what you had thoughts about the tools of the trade analogy,
Tools of the trade.
or excuse me, the types of people you can be.
Well,
I like that. Go ahead, Nate. You go first, and then I'll.
Well, the thing that I caught on with water, because we were talking about Book of Water, right?
Book of Earth, first one.
Oh, okay. We are starting with Earth. Yeah. So the Book of Earth, I was kind of like, yeah, okay. So Stoicism, right? Be able to, it's just, I don't know, be calm, be mindful, know yourself type of stuff. It's like, okay, cool, sure. I've heard a lot of that stuff. I'm not 100% subscribed to that. I understand its meanings and stuff, especially when it comes to like online arguments and crap, where it's like, yeah, sure, okay. But I don't know. This chapter really didn't hit me all that hard.
I thought this was a pretty practical chapter, so I liked it. I'll read through this real quick. At the very end of this chapter, Musashi does give 9 specific principles that can kind of be a foundation for everything else to go off of here. So I'm going to run through them real quick. First off, we have do not think dishonestly. Number 2, the way. Whenever I talk about the way, this is like Musashi's like trademark the way. So the way is in training. Number 3, become acquainted with every art. Number 4, know the way of all professions. Number 5 is distinguish between gain and loss in worldly matters. Number 6 is develop an intuitive judgment and understanding for everything. Number 7 is perceive those things that which cannot be seen. Number 8 is pay attention even to trifles. And number 9 is do nothing which is of no use.
I like that one.
I had a feeling that you guys might resonate with that 9th one.
Do nothing which is not useful.
Yeah. I have learned in life, though, there are some times, well, okay, maybe that is useful then. Let me get this thought out here then. Let me get your guys' opinions on this. So that kind of saying, do nothing unless it's useful is it kind of bothers me a bit. And the reason being is because it's like, okay, well, that means that the only thing in life that you should be ever focusing on is if it's moving you forward someplace, right? And so then you would say something like a video game or like a movie or something that's just, dead entertainment is completely worthless. You should never be doing anything like that. However, when you're thinking about it, if you do nothing but work, your mental state can get to a point where you're basically blocking yourself, And so what you need to do is you need to literally allow for time where you can be just entertained, or you can just release moving forward and building things, and able to release that stress and release the blockage that's basically happening in your mind. And so technically speaking, making yourself more efficient by just letting go of having to continually work on something might actually make you, well, obviously it's going to make you more efficient, right? And so that might actually be still continually moving you forward. The problem comes when that's the only thing you do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, are you looking at the sum of a person as a whole, or are you like if you only play video games, and then that's the extent of your existence, then it's like, okay, there is no production. It's just all consumption and mindless whatever. But if you use that tool of playing video games as like a pressure relief valve, or like a medicine almost, to like bring you back to like, hey, Like, I have rested, I have recuperated, I've gone through my peace process, I've filled up the gas tank, and now I'm ready to fucking charge at it and carpe that diem or whatever the hell. Then, like, yeah, it's one step on the path towards success, or it can be, and it could also just be consumption. There's
Yeah.
definitely a nuanced look to it, bro. You're totally right there.
There
Yeah,
definitely is.
just
In the
for-
case of, go for it.
Yeah, just real quick, right? Just from my own personal life, right? To give you I'm forgetting the word for that, but for myself, I usually set aside about 2 to 3 hours every single day to do like mindless, watch anime or play video games and eat food, right?
Yep.
And I purposely do that because if I'm constantly working, next thing I know, I'm just like a block, just blockhead up here. So
Yeah, dude, that's smart as hell, bro. I like it. Z, what do you got? Do you do something similar, Zenith? Do you have a decompression time?
Yeah, although I'm arguably, I either collect hobbies instead of doing my hobbies, or I'm constantly consuming media that is related to anything I'm interested in or working on. So obviously a lot of crypto stuff, a good amount of engineering stuff as well. Like, what this sounds so dumb, but like, shout out to the YouTube channel Taylor Ray. He's a auto mechanic guy that kind of just like builds project cars, and they're like very detailed, in-depth videos of just like him just like in the garage working on stuff, like doing welding for an exhaust piping manifold. Like, there are times I'll just throw that on and then I just fall asleep to it because it's just so like relaxing. But at the same time, it's like, it's intriguing enough that I want to see what's going on, but then just like watching the flow of the process, it's just like, lights out. But
a lot of people poo-poo the whole mental masturbation thing, like calling it, like with that word specifically. It's like, oh, hey, watching an interesting thing and doing nothing. It's like, no, you're learning, you're expanding your mind. You're not being active, so it's not like consuming processing power, and you're not like out there making the decision yourself. And actually, like, that person's doing the work. You're decompressing. There's a place for both of them, right? But we all need
Agreed.
to do the things.
I think that in particular, having a utility like YouTube, which is that if you watch people do things specifically with a purpose and also trying to be informative with it, it's a way of you gaining a little bit of lived experience. It's not going to be as much as if you were physically doing it yourself, because that's going to be a different experience. But it's the whole thing of watch other people's mistakes so that you can learn not to repeat them. For me personally, it's like I have a project car. I'm not very good at working on it or very diligent about it, mainly because I'm running into electrical issues right now, and I hate electrical issues. But the point is that I'm seeing the way that so many different people are trying to tackle projects and the way that they approach things. And with the people that show their work in every step of the way, like Taylor Ray, who built an entire like drift Corvette, like literally from a tub, doing the entire frame, doing an engine, custom turbo kit, custom like external fuel tank, a like very special differential suspension system. He even rewired the entire thing himself. And it's like, okay, I'm watching every step of the way. This is like how stuff is made, but for like project car people. And it's like, through that, I have specialized knowledge from just being an engineer, and I have an idea how to tackle projects. And then it's interesting seeing how they run into their own issues and how they tackle it and what their unique approach to it is. So it's a way of me kind of like thinking about things that I want to do ahead, watching other people and how they tackle it. And I learn things new every time, because I'll stand by this for a long time, which is that a lot of engineering is just learning that things exist.
Yeah.
Which is like, you don't know how to handle a problem unless you know that the solution already exists. So for me, I remember back in my Coast Guard days, I was like, okay, I know that trying to get an engine and a gearbox perfectly level so that shaft is perfectly in line with everything is very important.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you physically accomplish that? How do you get it to that like millimeter specification? And the answer was this stuff called chalkfast. I'd never heard of it before. Pretty much what it is, it's a like a setting kind of concrete that's used in industrial spaces, where you pretty much like get the machinery where you want. You install some like anchor bolts with your feet that the quick fast, aka like pretty much just mechanical concrete, is going to fit into, and then you cast it in place. It's like, until I knew that thing existed, I would have tried like a million other solutions and probably failed.
Yeah.
But because someone else has figured this out previously, I learned from it. So
Dude, the
that's what's
medical
going on.
industry is like that too, man.
Oh, for sure.
It's nuts. So when the quick fast sets, is it concrete or is it like a steel thing or is it some sort of like alloy? What that sounds cool as hell, man.
I can't remember exactly, but the point of it is that it is a material. It is unfortunately very brittle, but one of the trade-offs that you get when you make a very brittle material is that it's not very malleable, aka
Yeah.
it's not going anywhere. It is
Yeah.
not going to deflect, it is not going to move or shift. It is going to stay exactly where you put it, and that's what you need for that situation. Trade-offs to everything. But
like
the point of going down this rabbit hole is I wanted to relate it back to Musashi, which is that we have all these things that we do and consume in our free time. And if you do it with a purpose, I'd argue it's not a mistake or it's not wasted time. But it is that cross-training aspect, which is that you can start to see the way in everything. So Musashi in particular, we think of him as swordsman, later turned a bit of a philosopher. But at the same time, if you read the guy's bio, he did a lot of other things. Like he worked for a lord as a samurai, and he also was very into calligraphy and artwork, and I think a little bit of poetry as well. So it's like he was doing other things that are not exactly directly applicable to being a swordsman. But at the same time, when he's saying that there's the way in everything, which is that if you can figure out what's going on, you can get it down. Yeah, Twinky's got a good comment here. He says, different era. Musashi lived in an era where much of his life was practice, get better, then kill or be killed. It's like,
That's
yeah. We're going to call those evolutionary pressures, if you will, or survival pressures.
Yeah, it was a really bad time in Japan's history. Long civil war. I put it in the chat here, but yeah, it's the Moyomeya period, or the Sengoku period. Yeah, it was rough. And not only that, but that's when the Tokugawas, that's when his rise came to be. And once he took over, he united all the clans, and then the Edo period started. And Edo was a fantastic period. It was still bloody and violent, like Japanese were back then, but it was also that's when things really started taking off for Japan, and they became started becoming a world power. Was right around that time. So yeah, it's a, like, when you go back to those times, that's a hell of a story, just looking at all the different battles and shit back then.
True. All right, gentlemen, do we have any final thoughts on, or also Mrs. Producer, if you have any thoughts on the Book of Earth, get them in.
I had a thought on the just like you talking about, like, that the field of engineering is basically just learning that things exist. I have a super cool doctor friend who's over here with me in the Texas zone, and I hang out with him all the time, and he's constantly explaining to me, like, yeah, whenever like a person comes in and they need like some sort of diagnosis or something, like the first thing I do is I Google their symptoms, right? And it basically goes through the same process. Just he has more background knowledge to do the like understand the way that the body works, and like common like effects that drugs have versus other drugs have, and like other experiences that other doctors have. He's basically like, he's learning every time there's a new problem. He's figuring shit out on the fly. Like doctors don't just get like pre-downloaded all this information in their brain just like engineers. It's a constant process of like, oh, here's a new thing, here's a new thing, here's a new thing. This solves this problem, this solves that problem. So like is this X, Y, and Z chemical will do this, that, and the other to your body positive, and this, that, and the other negative. And this, that, and the other lifestyle change will have this, that, and the other effect. And so like that made me think about that. But as far as the earth, water, earth, water, or no,
Talking
we were
about
just
Earth
on the
right now.
one. Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah. I like the stoicism comparison. That's my final thoughts. I got nothing else.
The Stoicism comparison was a very good one, so hats off to Nate for that one. Alrighty, gentlemen, let's move on to the Book of Water. So this is one where he very specifically talks about the fighting technique when it comes to the two-sword method, aka long sword and short sword, and it's a combination of both. It's pretty much like, if you're in an open space, use the big one. If you're in an enclosed space or you're trying to fight tight next to your allies, use the small one. But at the same time, there's a lot more to it than that. It talks about like the difference between being like glue versus being entangled to someone, which is that when you lock with your opponent, like stick to them like glue, don't try to get entangled. And I was like, it's an interesting concept. Like, I get what you're saying. But as far as the Book of Water goes, let's see. This is where he does get to the Bruce Lee analogy, which is be like water, learn to be adapt. So water shifts to fit the container it is poured into, much like a person can learn to adapt to their surroundings rather than remain rigid and awkward, unable to shift quickly between disciplines and thoughts when faced with changing information and circumstances. Musashi also promoted the need for spiritual balance, writing, quote, "In strategy, your spiritual bearing must not be any different from normal. Both in fighting and everyday life, you should be determined through calm." What'd you guys get out of this chapter? Is that a decent synopsis, or am I skipping over something?
I think you kind of hit it there. Hit the nail on the head there. I did like this chapter. This chapter, the idea of flexibility has been really important in my life. Learning that, and so like for me, it was nice to nice to read that somebody thought of this way long time ago. You know, I guess I just got some validity of it because I had to learn it on my own. That it's better to be adaptable than to try and figure out exactly how something's going to work and then try and fit things to work to your plan, you know? So I kind of preferred that. Also his analogy of like everything is a dance, you know, everything in life can be like a dance or whatever. And there's like an ebb and flow to how everything works. That includes all the way up to things like, you know, the like financials and stuff like that. If you're kind of looking through that, you know, like marketplaces. Yeah, I really liked being able to pull that out and start like fitting that fluidity into, or sorry, the blah, blah. Oh my god, wow, I'm losing my wording here. I liked being able to take the fluidity part and be able to place it into many different parts of my life.
I dig it. All right, Mr. Will, what you think?
Man, I was typing a lot. Not even gonna lie. So I'm
All good.
blanked
All
out.
right.
But you were asking. This is the water one, and
Yes,
everything being like a dance. I do remember Nate talked about the dance.
So specifically the dance quote, I believe, is technically in the next chapter, but he alludes to it in this chapter. But specifically with the dance one, there's a few things that I picked up with it, which is that he also relates it to the idea of something being fast or slow. And when you relate it to like either a dance or playing music, it's fast and slow can also kind of be thought of as, is the action happening prematurely or later than it should. And then there is the way to be fast and slow inside of that, which is that like if something is expected of you, if you do it before it's expected, that can be described as fast. Or if you purposely delay it to happen after when someone thinks it's going to happen, that can be described as slow. So it's not just about the actual overall speed, but again, in the next chapter, he talks about speed as in reference to the timing, but also to like the power of it. But back to the dance analogy, it's like, yeah, there's ebb and flow to things. There's times when you can use it to your advantage or times when it's very expected. So specifically with the sword fighting, one of the things he talks about is that you can kind of see it in, there's some fighters in the UFC right now that actually kind of do this thing. Yoel Romero is a really good example of this, which is like he kind of lulls you into thinking that the fight is going to be a different tempo than the one that he wants to fight at, which is that he's going to like just kind of like pressure a little bit, throw some jabs, maybe a leg kick here and there, just try to get you to think that it's more going to be an outside fight where you're trying to throw things from a distance. But what he really wants you to do is he wants you to get comfortable with that so that when he explodes on you and really unleashes just the ridiculous amount of muscle mass that he has, you're not ready for it and you're caught off guard because you thought the fight was one thing, but now he's transformed it into something else, which is that he made you think it was going to be slow, but then he picked up that pace unexpectedly, and that's where you can really gain an advantage on stuff. So Musashi kind of talks about very similar things here with sword fighting, which is that you can lull your opponent with either the feints or maybe some like slowness, but then if you explode quickly off tempo, that's one of the ways that you can catch people off guard. And then also immediately after that, if they expect you to have to recover on something, that maybe even is a good chance to double down on the aggression and push it up to the next level as well. Because it's like you just made them think that you might be at the top of your range, but really you still have a lot more room to go.
We have a good comment here by Mr. Moonpilled Rational Optics. His most recent comment, Mrs. Producer, if you wouldn't mind pulling it up. You can hit before a strike, after a strike, or at the same time. They are beats of a drum. That's what that made me think of. Another thing, they had spoken about this in the and perhaps this will be more appropriate for the later chapters, but in the analysis I was listening to, they were comparing a fight between Kimbo Slice and some other guy, and Kimbo could like when person number 2 would throw fast punches, Kimbo could like bob and weave and like he could slip the punches and things. But when the dude threw like slow punches, like when he threw like less like lightning strike sort of things, he would connect with Kimbo every time because Kimbo wasn't used to getting like slower, more dramatic punches or something like that. That's what this what this passage makes me think of. As far as like life being a dance, or life being like a slow, not slow, a constant game of adjustment and expectation. It's like you're almost playing like mental chess while you're executing like physical
That's where I was
prowess.
going with it.
Yeah, it's just like it's a game of like just like the strangest combination of physicality and also like brute, but not brute, but like technique and like well applied learning and stuff. And one of the other things they touched on in this book, and I don't know if this is something that you're gonna talk about later, Zenith, but one of the quotes that I'd put up in the Telegram was like, you shouldn't be worried about learning cool techniques and neat tricks until you've mastered the fundamentals and mastered the basics and all that stuff. And that's what this conversation is making me think of. It looks like you got something, though, Nate. What's on your mind, bro?
Yeah, well, no, what you said there, the basics, right? If you know the basics, kind of like with your doctor analogy, right? You're able to do just about anything if you know the basics that well. In truth and reality, like me being a master licensed pest control, I know the basics of like how wasps work. I know the basics of how ants work. Do I know the specific ones? No, but I also know the basics of how my chemicals work, like how they work. So I know how I should apply those based on the type of creature I'm. I don't know everything very specific and in detail. I Google that shit all the time, but
Yeah.
because I know those base levels, I could still do my job just fine, even without knowing the details.
I like that, bro. That's good. Google that shit. Pull that up, Jamie. You should get a dude, like whenever you're out with like a new guy in the truck, be like, yo, Jamie, pull that shit up real quick. Da, 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 da.
I did it today, actually. Somebody
Oh, no
called.
kidding.
Yeah, he called me. One of my students called me, and he's like, "What do I do about this and that? And what type of ant does this look like?" And literally sent me a picture. And while he's doing it, I'm driving and like looking it up with the most common types of ants. And I was like, "It's either this ant or this ant." Started
awesome,
giving him
bro.
details.
I love it.
Alrighty,
Zenith, what are your thoughts?
As far as you got to color inside the lines before you can learn how to color outside the lines. I can't remember if there was actually a specific chapter that talked about that concept, but it's a pretty staple part of philosophical thought, and I would imagine it's the same thing with the swordsman, which is you got to learn how to do one well before you can start really working on the other stuff. But at the same time, you do need to learn how to get to the advanced stuff at some point. For true. Alrighty, speaking of timing, I have the timing quote that I want to read this out real quick. Apologies, it's a bit of a long one, but I think it's a very good example.
Do it.
Alrighty, quote, timing is important in dancing and pipe or string music, for they are in rhythm only if the timing is good. Timing and rhythm are also involved in the military arts, shooting bows and riding guns and riding horses. In all skills and abilities, there is timing. There's timing in the whole life of the warrior, in his thriving and declining, in his harmony and discord. Similarly, there's timing in the way of the merchant, in the rise and fall of capital. All things entail rising and falling timing. You must be able to discern this. In strategy, there are various timing considerations. From the outset, you must know the applicable timing and the inapplicable timing. From among the large and small things and fast and slow timing, find the relevant timing. Did I butcher that? From among the large and small things and the fast and slow timings, find the relevant timing. Okay, then. First, seeing the distance timing and the background timing. This is the main timing in strategy. It is especially important to know the background timing, otherwise your strategy will become uncertain.
Hey, Zenith.
Don't tell me I was muted for that whole thing or something.
No, but that would be funny. Ask me what's the secret to comedy?
Is it timing or is it the rule of threes?
It is timing, but I'm supposed to interrupt you while you're asking the question, which is the joke.
Gotcha. I mean, timing and the rule of threes, because I thought this is a you thing, which is that to tell the joke throughout the set, you go apple, apple, tampon.
Apple, tampon, tampon, tampon when you're dealing with me, bro. Nothing but tampons.
Fair enough.
For the folks at home who don't know, go hang out with Michael Sartain and you'll learn about apple, apple, tampon.
Oh, that's where that came from.
Yeah.
Okay. But as far as the quote that I just read, one of the things that I don't think we exactly talked about, I alluded to it initially with our discussion, was the idea of background timing versus your timing. because it's like there's the background timing, which is you can kind of imagine it to get a little like up there, which is like the flow of life or the flow of things. Like you can almost imagine as like the way of seasons, which
The
is
stuff
that there's
outside
kind
your
of
control, the environment.
correct. There's either like a natural flow to the world, or in things that are typically repeated a lot, there's a flow to things. I imagine that there's many ways to siege a castle. However, to do it particularly effectively, you develop a strategy, and it flows very similar every time. And then understanding where your timing falls is
Bless you. Good timing.
apologies. Bad timing. Bad timing. I was not in sync with my background timing. Now my strategy has become uncertain. But yeah, the point is timing. This is a big one that we're going to continue to see throughout the rest of the book. No surprise. But yeah, any final thoughts on timing and water?
I thought, what is kind of interesting is the idea of like, because when you say like background timing, the only thing I'm thinking of is like literally muscle memory, where you learn the timing of things. You learn the timing of things, not because you know it's time to do something, but because it's like instantly switch it, right? So there's a lot of things in fighting where if somebody goes to, throw a jab at you, you instantly know to move a certain way. And if you notice, and within split second, right, you notice that they're changing their swing to hit you for your change of your head movements, then from right there, the timing of just like stopping your movement is automatically going to win you that exchange, right? So, I mean, that's what I kind of think about when I was kind of hearing about this.
Will, you look
Man,
like you're about to say something.
I had something and it totally just like left me.
Tell you what,
Must be
Mr.
something in the
Producer,
air.
Can you pull up Ramon's comment starting with yes? Is the one that's saying, yes, sometimes you're in a fast flowing river, others a calm stream. Yeah. All right. I believe this is in reference to the background timing as well, which is that understand that your life is going to have different flow and different timing as well. But as far as timing goes, obviously we're crypto bros around here, which means that timing is very important for us, aka not just to get in the market, but to get out of the market in order to effectuate our strategy. So I would argue that the timing conversation probably resonates with us a lot because we're trying to figure that out on a daily basis, if not trying to figure out on a year's or 4 years plus time frame, and then also trying to figure out if our timing is off the entire time. Yeah, 15 years too. 15.5 years to be exact.
15.2. Nice try.
Oh, it's not? God.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's 15.2. Doesn't matter.
I wouldn't be surprised.
The point is like we are some crazy timing bros over here in the crypto sphere. I'm gonna divide 5,555 by.
Alrighty, Mrs. Producer, I want to pull up Alan's comment, and then after that, we're gonna move on to the Book of Fire.
Do you want to just do? Sorry, excuse me. Do you want to just do a quick round of chat shoutouts because he's at the bottom of the chat shoutouts right now? So
yeah,
Let's do it. You guys already know what time it is. It's time for chat shoutouts.
True. We are seeing a lot of the usual suspects show up tonight, so I'm very happy to see everybody here spending a beautiful Friday night with us. So first off, we have Moonpill, the Rational Optics, saying your tools are your life, whatever those tools might be. Well said,
bro.
Sir. Good to see you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, shout out to fucking Moonpilled Rational Optics for that one, because that inspired me to make a fucking post on Twitter and on Facebook that it's basically like, look, guys, if you can't accomplish anything, so like your tools are your means to accomplish something, right? So like I can't clean my Dremels and things without this little, or not Dremels. I can't clean my power tools without that little scraper. I can't like go to the bank and spend $1 or get $10 without this roll of quarters, right? Like I can't tell the time without this fucking watch. There's a lot of things in life that you can't do unless you have your tools. And if you can't do shit in life, then what the fuck's the point of your existence, right? So like when Moonpilled says that your tools are your life, that's like that's the fucking key to unlock your ability to do shit. Like if you're just a naked ape in the woods and you ain't got no sticks and no rocks, then like, well, congratulations, motherfucker, you're shit out of luck and your life is over. So shout out to you, broski. What else we got in the chat shout out round?
We got Mr. Tin Top saying, "What's up, Hexikins?" Good to see you, Tin Top. Thanks for stopping by. And speaking of Hexikins, We got Hexagon Lost in Asia saying, just stop by to see those hairstyles. We have a lot of different bases covered when it comes to hairstyles. We got Will, obviously, with the putting green-esque surface, and then I'm rocking the short on the sides, a little bit length on the top, and then we even have Nate at the full-grown, the long, luscious locks, if you will. So yeah, we got all.
Yeah, I
bases
stole all of
covered.
Will's hair.
Yep, that's true. That's the reason that I don't have any is because Nate came over while we were hanging out in New Hampshire. He snuck up on me and then he was like, "Hey, bro, it's like one of those like got your nose things, except it's got all your hair." And then ever since then, I've been bald. That's the way that it
Stole the
goes.
hair.
Have you ever thought about getting a mullet, Nate? Has that ever crossed your mind?
No, not at all. Actually, I was thinking about possibly doing like a Viking cut, which is basically just kind
Ooh.
of like shave all this stuff here, and then it's just like long up here, and then
Yeah,
goes all the way back. I was kind of thinking about that, or maybe I could have this right here, and then like, what are those called? You put like braids in it and stuff.
Oh, Nate with cornrows. There we
Yeah,
go.
I am a Viking. You know that, right? That's actually
Yeah.
like just Irish, and then like just the
Mhm.
what peninsula is that again called again? Forgot.
There's
But
a lot
yeah,
of 'em.
basically Sweden, Finland, and just all those.
Oh,
all those places,
Scandinavia.
Greenland.
The
The
Scandinavian
Nordic
Peninsula.
Peninsula.
Scandinavian. Thank you.
Yeah.
Beats
What about
me.
you, Zenith? Have you ever thought about getting a mullet?
No, not a mullet, but I think you guys have seen the longest I've ever had my hair was recently. Actually, it was back when I was still doing like the slick back look, and I was trying to cut it short on the sides, and then it got so long, it got so long that it got like all the way down to my lips when I was like out of the shower and had it down front. But I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of back. This is a bit longer than my old classic Jo haircut style. But I am very happy to have the short sides in the summertime again because it feels good.
Dude, as soon as I got out of the Marine Corps, man, I went straight into Mohawk, and I was nothing but Mohawk for 4 years, man. And then I started balding, and I was like, fuck, can't do
Son of a
Mohawks
bitch.
anymore, bro. Like it was the worst because it was like right up here too. It was right in the middle of my fucking Mohawk. I hated it. Actually, if you guys watched some of our earlier streams on the DGen Roundtable, I didn't start going bald until maybe about sometime in August, or like this time roundabouts last year is when I started doing the bald thing. So if you guys go back in the timeline, you can see me where I still have my stupid little goat, I had a chin mohawk and I had a head mohawk. So little Easter egg for the folks at home there.
There you go.
Before I decided to do like beard no mustache and like these little fang things or whatever. I can't stand fucking hair right here. But anyways, enough about hair. Is that it for chat shoutouts?
Nope,
Did
we
we
got
cover
one
them all?
more, and then I want
Okay.
to have an extra one as well. But I did want to say this is the Beard Club right now. We got the
Yep,
facial
yep.
hair gang in the house.
Yep.
Alrighty, up next we got Alan Fizame. Says it all comes down to fundamentals and practice of those fundamentals. Over time, you will master them, allowing other skills to be refined. I believe correct me if I'm wrong on this one, boys, but it's one of those things where it's like, I fear not the man that has practiced 1,000 punches, but I fear the man that has practiced one punch 1,000 times.
Yes. Yep. That's, man, I'm like whenever I saw the Musashi thing talking about the water and everything, it reminded me of that Bruce Lee quote. And I wonder if like Bruce Lee used to read Musashi, or what's his name? Oh, Miyamoto Musashi. Yeah, that's right. I wonder if Bruce Lee, I mean, I'm sure he did, right? But like it's all the same, ethos. It's all the same, like be fluid, be practical, be oh yeah, there we go.
No, this
Fear
is a
not the
meme
man.
that my buddy sent me about Alex Pereira. It says, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man who has practiced one single leg kick and has that dog in him.
It doesn't have the kick part. It just says practice one single leg.
Oh. Oof. Shout out to
We do it live,
good way
people.
to point that out. True. Excellent. Yeah. Shout out to
Oh,
Alex
that's
Pereira.
beautiful.
Currently one of my favorite UFC fighters. Absolute legend.
Fuck
Cool.
yeah.
And then, Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, can we pull up the Funkmaster Hex comment, the most recent one? It says, when you pour your next cocktail, hit the damn like button. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for helping promote us. Doing all the
Speaking
YouTube
of pouring your next
pleasantries.
one,
I fucking like Fuckmaster, dude. He's a good cat. Always got that, dude. I can't say I've ever seen a post that he's made without the little drink at the end of it. So shout out to you, Funkmaster Hex. You've got your brand on point. You are definitely predictable and consistent in that. I love it.
True. There you go. Already, we are on to
Oh!
book.
Can we take a quick pause real fast, Zenith? I have an announcement / shill for the DGen Roundtable. Speaking of drinking, and also because it is Friday after some cool news came out recently. Is this a good time for us to plug
Might as well.
a code thing? All right,
I was
sweet.
gonna do it at the end, but whatever.
Oh, you're
works,
gonna
I
do it at
guess.
the end?
That
Okay.
was my plan,
Well,
but I don't mind doing it somewhere in the middle too. Go for it. Well, I want to do it
folks,
myself.
we're interrupting your standard programming. My camera just fell down there a little bit. We're interrupting your standard programming to bring you an announcement that if you guys go to pulsechaintour.com and you type in promo code DGen, you guys will get a 36.9% discount on your tickets to this upcoming 2025 Pulse Chain conference. That's the one. That's the word that I'm looking for here. The Pulse Chain conference happening over in Las Vegas. So if you guys are planning on buying tickets for it and you want a 36.9% discount, then go on over to pulsechaintour.com, find the Pulse Chain Tour. I got a bubble in my throat at the worst time. Find Pulse Chain Tour and then type in promo code DGen, and then that will get you guys your 36.9% off discount. And this discount is only live for about a month or so. Sometime in September,
It is live through the end of August.
Live through the end of August. All right, so you guys have 14, 15. You guys have a number of days, right, until the end of August to go and get yourself these Pulse Chain tickets at 36.9, almost 37% discount. You guys can spend a couple $100 instead of several $100s to get yourself access to next year's Las Vegas Pulse Chain Tour, where I will be at definitively. You can count on that. And Zenith, had you said that you're going to that one as well?
Absolutely. You know I'm going to Vegas. I had an absolute blast this last time around.
Fucking give me some knuckles, bro.
Bam.
Bam, there we go.
Yeah. So
very good.
A little bit of inside baseball on this one. The March Pulse Chain Tour event this year in Las Vegas went so well and everyone had so much fun that they kind of decided that this is going to be the premier event for the entire calendar year. They like to do some cruises. I think they're actually doing a cruise at the end of September, but the March Las Vegas event is going to become the annual premier event for the Pulse Chain Tour. So shout out to RG3, SJ, Black Hexkin, and everybody over there putting these events together because it's quite a doozy. And I got to say, I'm excited for this one also because they're doing a golf tournament at the end of the week as well. I don't know if it's a good idea to put the golf tournament on literally the fourth day of the conference, considering everyone's going to be dehydrated and tired, but I will be.
To do it.
It could be. I will be hitting the links, and I need some people to play with. So if you want to sign up, there's a good chance you can end up playing with me. And until then, I want to see some scorecards posted in the chat. I want to see people hitting the links. I want to see some drives, and I might even have a special surprise for Sunday's show with regards to our special code DGEN, DEGEN. Use it through the end of August to get 36.9% off your ticket purchases for Pulse Chain Tour Las Vegas 2025.
Absolutely fantastic.
Specific for that event.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So I want to go over a little bit of numbers, right? So the ticket prices are $369, of course, right? However, if you use our code, you will actually be only spending $136. So quite frankly, you could basically take like
hold on
multiple of those.
I don't think that maths, Nate. Are you sure?
You don't think the
I think that's the amount that they save, right?
Yeah, that's the amount.
Or the amount that they save, yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah. So it's like it's closer to like 200 something bucks, 240.
Yeah,
232. Okay, yeah, but yeah, bro, that's a significant amount of money to save. 130 fucking smackers, 40%, just about for typing in 5 letters. Like think about it, guys. That's like 5 letters, 40%. You're getting almost 10% per fucking little like key button that you press on a computer. How easy is that? Where else can you get that in the world? That's fucking crazy. Dude, thanks for doing the math on that, Nate. Are you gonna I know that you had mentioned you have interest in it. I don't want to put any pressure on it if you haven't decided yet. Have you thought about attending it all?
Oh yeah, I should be able to. I mean, it's in March. As you know, I'll be making my first public appearance in October, and I think that's going to kind of open the floodwaters for me to be able to start moving around and start doing some things. So that'll be nice.
Hell
Out
yeah.
in March, definitely going. However, the price of the ticket is the question. I am thinking about getting the middle tier. I believe that one's like what, 600 or something. I was kind of thinking about doing that one.
Oh, there's tiers.
This is a bit inside baseball, but I think this is something as the DGen Roundtable team as a whole we should talk about, because I'm not gonna lie, if there's an opportunity for all of us to be together at a single event, it might be a good idea to set some time aside and either host a small get together for our crowd, or also maybe get like an Airbnb together and just do like a stream studio kind of thing and record some content IRL.
That'd be freaking awesome, dude.
Ooh, there's an
And then we could just go rent out a studio.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that is enough of that. We're going to go back to the book, trying to give value to the audience. I mean, we just gave you a lot of value there, depending on which ticket you buy. So, back to the book, though. All right, we're talking about book number 3 now, the Book of Fire. So, we just went through Earth and Water, which was Be Grounded, and then Move Like Water. Now we're talking about Fire. This is the Aggression and Initiative chapter. So, this is the one where he specifically talks about the first mover's advantage, which Nate mentioned previously, and then this is one of the ones where he introduces an interesting concept, which I'm going to call, or he rather calls, pressing down on the pillow. Or, yeah, this is the idea where, quote, he says, in today's day and age, establishing hard and fast rules on a stance is not the way to victory, but rather creating difficulties for your opponent. And then in regards to what we were talking about previously, where he's talking about the idea of trying to make no effort that is wasted, or no action that is wasted. He says, quote, when your opponent goes to use a technique on you, if it is a useless one, let them do it. But if their action is functional, suppress it and keep them from completing it.
I like it.
Yeah, that's when he's talking about using like the yelling technique, right?
Well, he talks about everything. He's talking about, that's the intimidation or the aggression factor, which is that you can be intimidating or aggressive through the way that you look at someone, the way that you position your body, your voice, the actions you take, the noise you make. It's all encompassing, as he talks about.
Uh-oh. Oh, never mind. I thought you had something at the end of that sentence, and I thought you cut off the stream there.
Yeah, actually, I thought so too.
Yeah, so I'll say this one. This chapter in particular is the one where instead of focusing on yourself, this is the chapter where you focus on your opponent, and rather the impact that you have on your opponent. And a lot of it is also specifically on the pressing down the pillow concept, which is that you want to always be pressuring your opponent. I mean, yeah. Look, I grew up with 2 brothers. There was a thing called the pillow treatment where you pretty much suffocate the other one.
God.
I'm not gonna lie.
God damn, bro.
Hey,
Real quick, Zenith, are you the oldest, the middlest, or the youngest brother?
you got to guess first.
I would guess that you're the middlest brother.
I am the middlest, indeed.
That makes sense. You have the Nate, do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I got a older sister, brother, whatever it is now, and a younger sister and a younger brother.
Okay. I am the oldest of 3 brothers, but I do have an older sister. Man, there's a whole philosophy on like mindsets and ways that people act if they're eldest male, eldest female, youngest male, youngest female, stuff like that. Z, I don't know what it is, but like you do remind me of my middlest brother a little bit, broski. A little bit. Probably in the
I remind you of Sam?
No, Sam's the youngest.
Oh, is he? Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
On that
Yeah,
vein,
cool.
Will, so do you have predictions about people based on how many siblings they have and things?
Do I have
Sorry.
predictions about them?
Yeah.
There are common traits that people can like presuppose, but it's generally a bad idea to judge people before getting an honest read, like in person or having interacted with them, like whatever. Like we can have preconceived notions. I could be like, oh, I understand that you're a middle child. I'll have this mental image of like the kind of person that I expect you to be because I understand you're a middle child. And then you can either break or fall into that category or things like that. Does that answer your question? Is that what you were asking?
I was just curious, and I was going to ask if you thought what your prediction would be for me then.
Ooh, if you're I would guess that you're an eldest sister. Would be
No, I'm
my
in the
guess.
middle.
Oh, you're a middle child. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Well, yeah. See, the blueprint doesn't always work. So.
Well, to be fair, only sister though too.
Oh, only sister. Oh, shoot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the only girl out of 6. So my parents did not have all of them together. Some of them,
Damn.
one of them is on my mom's side, 2 of them are on my dad's.
Your parents out here taking care of the repopulation problem. Whoa.
Can you hear me now?
There was
We
like
can hear
a
something.
cool sonic boom there at the beginning of that. It sounded like you just passed through the speed barrier.
Your headset might be having meltdown.
Oh, we got echo. There we go. Yeah, the whatever it was, Mr. McGetta, your microphone became way more sensitive after the can you hear me?
Yeah, StreamYards basically blew up for her.
Yeah, it removed her icon. It's done all sorts of crazy things.
All right. Well, regardless, let's get back to the topic at hand, if you don't mind.
Ah, yes. Okay.
So we were talking about Book of Fire is mainly an oppositional book, in my personal opinion, which is it's really talking about how to deal with an opponent, and specifically the idea of it incorporates the stoicism concept in the beginning, which was don't do anything that is of no use or wasted effort. And then in this chapter, he's like, you don't do that. But if your opponent's trying to do something that is worthless or doesn't have any actual effort, then yeah, just let them do it. But if they try to do anything practical or effective, that is what you have to stop or actively suppress. What do you guys think?
Is that a question?
I mean, I'm trying to give a hook to you guys to go from here. So is this kind of line of thinking highly relevant to our world today? I'm going to pull a bit of a Musashi and say that it's kind of like the opposite effect, which is that he's specifically talking about you as a sword fighter. Don't let your opponent do things that are useful or productive against you. But if you think about it in the opposite sense, which is that if you are fighting the world, so to speak, don't let the world do things. Don't let the world stop your productive and useful things, which is that you have to press through them. Because we don't have a specific opponent that we're fighting with swords. We have the efforts that we make in the world, and then the forces that naturally oppose us.
Sorry, I had someone in my ear. I didn't hear it. I didn't hear that.
Okay, tell you what, I'm just going to keep moving on. Next up, we have the idea of things you can do, along with what Nate was talking about earlier, which is the idea of intimidation. And he talks about agitating your opponent. And there's really 3 ways that you can agitate your opponent, which is that you can give them the feeling of danger. You can give them the feeling that something is beyond their capabilities.
Yeah.
Or you can give them the feeling of the unexpected, aka the unknown. So do you guys think that there's any other ways that you can kind of intimidate opponents or agitate them? Or do you think this kind of covers all the bases?
Well, I mean, those are good summarizations. There's obviously there's a lot of nuance and stuff that can be thought into it, but basically those are the big ones. Is agitation or agitations and feigns?
Agitating your opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
to
agitating,
summarize
like
them real
you
quick.
make them, you upset them on the emotional level, or you trick them into doing something that you already want them to do. Right.
That's true. You can
That's
almost think of these
manipulation.
as like, yeah, you can think of these as like the different threat vectors that you face as yourself. So instead of, we'll do the flip again, which is that instead of trying to make your opponent feel this way, as someone, especially like if anybody that's gone through like SEER school or some sort of like capture evasion school, which is that what are the things you worry about? You worry about the fear of danger, which is some sort of hazard or opponent coming to you. You can have a fear that whatever you do is not going to be able to overcome whatever obstacles are in your way, aka the self-doubt aspect. And then the last one is anything outside of those, which is like, what are the things that I'm not thinking about that's going to get me? What is that thing that I'm not aware of that's going to sneak up and get me from behind? It's pretty much like your known hazards, your ability to deal with the known hazards, and then your ability not to know all the hazards.
Fear of threat. So that'd be working with your fears. And yeah, it's all manipulation. Like, so when he went through this, the only thing that I was thinking of was literally just manipulation. How can you trick, or how can you make your opponent think that you're going to do something, aka the chess game, right? How can you make your opponent think you're going to do something and then not actually do it? So the idea is like, how many times do you got to fake something?
A feign, yeah.
Yeah, feint is another word for it. Or
Dude,
the other,
soccer all the time, right?
yeah,
Like
the-
soccer is a great example.
yeah. When you're doing all
All the
doing all the
fancy
dribbling and all that, right?
Go
But
ahead, sorry.
it's kind of like the idea with, like, say, the shouting. The shouting is simply the manipulation of, oh no, this is threatening now,
Yeah.
and I might actually get a little scared, because it's kind of like the idea of, like, with a bear, right?
Yep.
If you get really big, it's like, oh, this is going to come at me really fast, and people start thinking, okay, he's going to come at me. Oh wait, he's not coming at me.
That like lizard brain thing, right? It's like
Yes,
when you
exactly.
shout, people are like, danger, right?
Yeah.
And there's different types of shouts. There's like, I'm in the movie watching a scary movie shout. There's like, I'm on a roller coaster going downhill shout. There's like, oh no, I've chopped my hand off kind of shout. Then there's
Yeah.
like I'm gonna get you kind of shout. There's all sorts of different, and it's all manipulation, like you're saying, bro.
Yeah, and then there's other things that you can do too, and this is where you get like the whole villain monologue type thing, where you start talking about things that would really upset someone. Like, oh, I killed your best friend and it was slow, right? Something like that. And what that's going to do is that's going to throw an opponent off, because that, number one, that will do a couple of things. Actually, it'll either piss them off to the point where they're not thinking anymore, and they'll just come at you just lizard brain, like, just pure monkey rage, or they'll be so distraught over that idea that they're not going to have that energy to be able to keep up with you anymore.
Yeah, the point's like you almost want to throw them off balance, as you see it as like you could see it as like they're ready to fight, they're getting balanced, they're getting in the zone, they're ready to do like a normal like battle's worth of damage and mindset and all that crap, and then you try and fucking throw a little rug pull in there and like take them out of that zone, so that way you can smoke their ass, right? The point is not to have a fair fight. The point is to have an imbalanced fight where you have all the advantage and they have all the disadvantage. And so if you can get in there and you can play mind games and say like, hey, I fucked your mom, haha, bro, like, what you gonna do about it, right?
Got him.
Like, if you can get in there and you can blow them off their cool, then it's like victory is almost guaranteed, because now they're no longer operating off of rational brain and well-trained brain. Now they're acting on like lizard brain, like fucking
Yeah,
do the
emotional brain. Yeah, and that's the
100%.
thing too. Like, if their stance, and they're ready to go for battle, that's called focus, right? But then all of a sudden you're like, hey, your feet are incorrect. That makes them look down, aka distraction.
Shoes
or
untied.
right, or get some doubting, self-doubting, where they're like, can I actually win this if he knows that my stance is completely bad, even though your stance is perfect? And so that's the self-doubting side. That's why they talk about that's why they talk about like just keeping focus all the time whenever it comes to any sort of martial arts, anything. You got to keep focus.
Yeah, if you're in a battle with someone to the death and they say like, hey dude, your stance isn't quite right, like, just know they're not there to help you train better. They're not there to help you win. They're there to like, throw you off your game. They're not trying to turn this into a, hey everyone, like, sit down, school circle, let's turn this into an opportunity for learning here. It's like, no bro, they're trying to kill you. So be on your guard. I like that. That's a good analogy, Nate. Zenith, what you got, bro?
I don't have much more than that. It's just this is one of the chapters where it interested me, because I've been in a place before where it's like, yeah, I have been either a competitor or a fighter to some degrees. I never was like super big into sparring, but at the same time, it's like I understand the idea of like, I love playing games personally, like board games, video games, any kind of thing. So this translates for me to a lot of those things, which is like you can have very different play styles when you play games. It's like, in particular, one of the board games that I like to play with people a lot, just because it's super easy to introduce to people, but the strategy depth it's there for sure if you want it, and that's Ticket to Ride, which is just a little board game about trains and how you have to build a train across the United States. But at the same time, it's like I can play it with like a friend of mine and their parents, and we can have like a pretty like calm game where we're like all trying to accomplish our route and like not trying to like actively like be antagonistic to each other. And then I can get my 4 best friends together and we start putting on oil baron voices and making stupid lines about living off the draw. And then we are the
listen,
most
yeah.
antagonistic, and like there's 4 of us. Like we see that one of our friends, there's like only one route left that he can go, and the 4 of us just go like completely out of our way, making purely suboptimal plays just to screw him over, just because we know he's gonna be so mad. It's like it's that aggression. It's that like, look, you're doing something useful, so I got to stop you. Like, look, it's nothing personal, kid. It's just good business.
Yeah.
Zenith, you
good
and I,
build.
like when we meet, we need to talk about strategy in like games and stuff like that. Because man, am I a sucker for that shit.
Oh no, it's good. And then one of the more famous things with my play group as well is that everyone always tries to fight over the red and blue pieces, because a while back I found this study where it's talking about like in some games that rely on aggression, there's like a noticeable win rate bump for the person that's playing as the red player, and then in any kind of like intelligence game, there's a even more noticeable bump for anybody that plays as the blue player.
Yeah.
So in all my games, I try to snag the red pieces, and my friends know that like I've mentioned this a few times, so they don't even care about it or believe in it, but they just know that I'm trying to do something that I perceive as useful. Therefore, they're trying to, push the pillow down on me, so to speak.
Oh man, my brother just brought up an excellent memory for me that reminds me like what you're talking about. Okay, so shout out to
That's
Sam
just how you-
Stevenson.
This is how you ruin friendships right here. This is how
Yes.
you look. If you wanted to get rid of somebody from your life, this is one way to do it.
Okay, this is so my brother Sam, Ed, and I, right? So it goes Will, Ed, Sam from oldest, middlest to youngest. That's the strategy for Halo Forge, and this is back when we were kids and stuff. Sam and I used to antagonize our brother Ed so much. So Ed, if you're watching this podcast, shout out to you, bro. You have way more patience dealing with Sam and I than I could ever muster. But our strategy was to turn off the Xbox before he saved his game and just get him into a fit of rage, and then he would be unplayable for like the relative future. Oh my god, dude, Sam, you brought back some crazy memories there. Shout out to you. And by the way, shout out to my brother. He just finished a podcast over on his stream talking about oh shoot, I can't remember the topic of conversation, but it was for his bungalows for bachelors thing. Let me see. I can pull it up. Framing Fridays. It was about construction plans and things of that nature. So he's trying a new stream profile. So Sam's over there doing that stuff right now. Mrs. Producer, can you pull up that that starred chat from Paul Sachs earlier? Does stripping down naked and then starting the fight count as throwing them off? And I would say yes. I've seen many fights won on YouTube and 4chan and other places by gentlemen stripping down completely naked and just throwing their opponent off completely. And
I thought
what that
that's how
really
you
means,
did it in a marriage.
well, that's a different type of fight, Nate, and that's a subject that we can cover at a different podcast date. But for this particular instance, like if you strip down naked and your opponent leaves, then you probably could have won against your opponent without stripping naked, but you've saved yourself the process of perhaps coming to physical blows at the cost of your reputation, whatever that might be worth to you. If you're fighting against a serious opponent, stripping down naked will do nothing, and now you're at a major disadvantage because now you're motherfucking naked. So it's a calculated play. It's basically like if you think you're gonna win, if you think you're going against a loser and you just want that little bit of upper edge and you don't want to necessarily like come to fisticuffs, then hey, maybe stripping down naked would be the way to go for you. So that's
But at the same time, if it works, it works. Like
this is true. Yeah, if you live to see another day because you ripped your clothes off before you went to go fight some people, then hey, that's the way it's got to go. We got another comment here from Moonpilled Rational Optics.
like this
the
one.
Tradition since we were kids is that my brother and I play all the Halo games in co-op max difficulty. I've done this with my middle brother Ed. It was super fun. There's actually there's another running joke where I was the one who was doing the matchmaking, and we had played like all the way up to Halo 3 on like whatever the normal difficulty is, and then as soon as we got to Halo 3, I switched it to legendary and didn't tell him. And he was just like, "Bro, why is this first level so fucking hard? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense." And
Yeah,
You
there's
guys were evil.
it's a good time.
there's a solid group of middle-aged men in the United States right now that have PTSD from jackals with beam rifles just absolutely demolishing you from
Smoke.
nowhere, and
Smoke.
it'll keep you up
Smoke.
at night.
Yep.
Absolutely smoked. Anyways, all right, we good to get back to it.
Yeah,
Let's
we're
get back
talking about
to it.
fire, aren't we?
I think we're done
Book of
talking
Fire?
about fire, unless we have any
Okay.
last thoughts on the matter.
I am A-okay.
Alrighty, on to the Book of Wind. This is the adaptability, or kind of a critique of other people being masters at things. So, in the Wind chapter, Musashi changes his focus a little from his writing on individual techniques and strategies, covered in the earlier books, to the broader, more philosophical aspects of martial arts and strategy. Here, he kind of uses the term wind metaphorically, representing invisible and tangible elements of strategy and combat. So this is the chapter where we do get his analogy talking about how being a good general means that you don't have a favorite weapon or a preferred style of fighting. And it's also the thing where it's like, if you go too far in a category, it's also the same as not going far enough in general. And this is where he talks about, I think there's a quote here, quote, "Some other schools have a liking for extra long swords. From the point of view of my strategy, these must have been seen as weak schools. This is because they do not appreciate the principle of getting cut of, this is because they do not appreciate the principle of cutting the enemy by any means possible."
And there's a difference between cutting and slicing. That was that something that that you guys heard in your version of the books?
Yeah, I think he was talking about the difference between like wounding versus cutting down your opponent.
So it's like my understanding was that cutting is like this is an attack that I am like fucking like I'm going for, I'm committed to, you know. And then like slicing is like I have injured him, and it was just kind of like like more of a dance of the blades. Like if I were to compare it in like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like rapier style fencing, with the long pointy swords that are meant for stabbing, but they
That's
can cut.
poking.
Yeah, they're meant for poking, right? So rapiers, they're fucking serious weapons. They're super dangerous, right? Like if you get a stab with a rapier, like they're fucked. If you get a cut with a rapier, it's like, oh no, somebody gets cut, right? But like that's what I like in the and I watch a lot of shout out to Scalagram and or Scalagrim and Shadiversity. I watch a lot of their videos on sword fighting and things. So I've actually quite a bit of a sword nerd. I've got a sword headed to my brother's house in the very near future that I'm stoked to pick up. But the difference between like cuts and slices is like the cut being like a dedicated, you know, like this is going to severely injure and or kill my opponent, versus the slice is just like oh, I happen to get lucky and there's some secondary tertiary damage as a result of my my strikes and my techniques and things.
Would you say it's kind of similar to the idea of like a light, medium, or heavy strike, which is that you're
Yeah.
either just trying to like touch your opponent or you're trying to actually like hammer something home?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. That's a good way to put it. I like that.
The
Cool,
thing
cool.
that I was kind of looking at with that is back in those days, especially the Japanese were known for not having as heavy a armor as, like, say, the Europeans had, right?
Mhm.
And so the difference in the styles of swordplay was very different. So for Japan, it was all about cutting through. You know, like you could chop down freaking trees with this shit. You know, well, not like thick ones, but smaller ones. But
Bamboo.
yeah, bamboo. There you go. Versus, so it was cutting versus chopping in Europe with like the claymores and all that, because you had that extremely heavy armor. So then you needed extremely heavy, large swords to just come down like almost like an axe and just cut that way. So yeah, that was the first thing I went to with that. But yeah, quite frankly,
yeah.
what I thought about this chapter was I kind of ignored it a little bit, because I was like, okay, so he's basically just shitting on all the other schools.
Well, I think what he's doing is he's shitting on them for being exclusive to their school and like believing it's best for some intangible reason. This is kind of one of the modern critiques with styles of fighting, specifically, especially when the UFC and MMA became popularized, which was that there were a lot of like other martial arts instructors, especially in the United States, which were like, no, like don't pay attention to that. It's just like human cockfighting. It's just a no nonsense cage match. Our karate is the most pure form of martial arts, or no, this kung fu is the top thing there is. When as opposed to like looking over at MMA and the UFC, and it's like, no, this is like pretty much we have the unified set of rules, which is pretty much go for whatever you want, as long as you're not like going for the eyes, going for the nuts, or doing 12 to 6 elbows, which is arguably a very stupid rule depending on how you apply it. But it's as long as you're inside that, anything goes. And there were people that were teaching martial arts that either adapted or they still clung to the cult mentality and just tried convincing people that, yes, we can teach a 120-pound woman to fight off the 250-pound male attacker through this Aikido technique that's foolproof every time. It's like, I think people are going to catch on that you're lying to them a little bit.
I don't care what you say, Zenith. Capoeira is the ultimate pinnacle of all martial arts. Nothing quite like those dance kicks going around there.
Capoeira. I thought you were going to pull out the gun fu, but...
Gun fu. Oh, shit. The gun katas from, what's that Christian Bale movie? Oh, fuck. Where everyone's got to, like, do the,
I was more of just
medicine.
making a joke about how firearms have kind of leveled the playing field, but if there's a reference here I'm accidentally making, I apologize. It's not that.
Dude, gun fu, gun katas are a thing in, oh, shoot. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's a Christian Bale movie, and Sean Bean's in it. Sean Bean dies, you know, totally unheard of and unexpected. I wanted to like offer a comment for the folks at home who don't know like the difference between like a cut and a slice. Is like a cut is like the blade moves forward into the thing and cuts it off. Like a slice is the blade hits and then makes like a draw motion. So that's like the technical difference between a cut and a slice. Axis
and
cut,
Will, for YouTube purposes,
slice.
that is a training dummy knife, right?
Yeah, this is a training dummy knife. It's actually quite dull. This is a butter. This is my butter knife. So
you're trying not to go the way of Boogie.
Oh yes, the way of, but well, you know, these are not firearms, so we should be okay. But
allegedly,
in the event that we do, like Mr. NSA agents, this is actually a piece of food. I'm going to eat it as soon as we're done streaming here.
That's a harder sell, I think. But all right.
The you know, for all those tens, hey NSA agents, if you guys happen to be watching right now, all that I ask is that you like the smash button, that you guys sub to our channel, and that you join our Telegram, so that way you can, you know, after you guys ban us off of YouTube, you can still go catch all our content and stuff going on Telegram. Oh, by the way, I should drop the link for that in the chat. But like the point of the cuts and the slices is to talk about like the dedication of the infliction to do damage, right? So like a cut being like serious. I think Nate, you were the one talking earlier about cuts being more like axes, like a chopping motion, you know, and then a slice being like a draw motion that has to do like you have to do damage by the little tiny microscopic serrations on the end of the blade, like doing the slices and things. There's tons of knife fights out there where people get cuts all over their body all day and night. Like you guys, you can take cuts for days, but like as soon as you start getting stabs, and as soon as you start, or excuse me, slices, you can get slices for days and you'll still function perfectly well as a human being. But as soon as you start getting stabs, and as soon as you start getting like chops or cuts, as Musashi puts it, or not Musashi. It's with an M, right?
Miyamoto Musashi, yes.
Yeah,
I don't want to downplay the lethality of blades though, because the running joke that I've had within EMT circles is that you know what the difference between the winner and the loser of a knife fight is? Is that
there is no winner.
The loser bleeds out on the spot, the winner bleeds out in the ambulance.
Yeah. Nobody wins in a knife fight. That's definitely true. Which is why the analogous point that Musashi, god damn it, Musashi? Yeah, the analogous point that Musashi makes.
Really struggling with this one, brother.
Yeah, I really am. It's not my language. What can I say? The point that he makes is that like you want to end the fight before you take damage. Like you have to commit to the strikes. You can't be like pussyfooting around doing these half-assed like, oh, hopefully like people that aren't committed to the kill. That was another thing that he brought up. And this is when I was reading like the actual book, is like, if you're not committed to the kill, then you're going to lose. You know, if you're trying to maim the opponent, if you're trying to wound them, if you're trying to like do anything other than completely incapacitate with every single blow that you're making, then you're not in it to win it, and you're going to be the one to lose unless like some sort of fluke thing happens or something of that nature.
So that comes to the power of like, so when he's talking about commitment on slicing like that, right? There is definitely a lot of truth to that. Think about when they teach you how to correctly punch, okay? They tell you to punch behind the object
Yep.
that you actually want to hit. The
Yep.
reason why, and I actually tried this out, is when you're aiming to hit the thing, that's where your momentum stops. And that's also when your muscles start pulling back, right? Versus if you're trying to hit the whatever it is behind the actual object you're trying to hit, you will continue on through it and then you start pulling back. And it's so minor, but the damage that it does is insane. Like
Yep.
the amount of extra damage just by something as simple as that is absolutely crazy. Now, granted, if you're trying to like break through a really thick board or something, maybe you break your bones too. So the damage is like a double-edged blade right back at you. But I'll tell you what, like the difference between getting hit with someone who's trying to hit you in the face and someone who's trying to hit the back of your skull, there's a big difference.
Yep. And then something for the folks at home to consider. If you are throwing a punch, the power of the punch does not come from your body. The power of the punch comes from the ground. You're pushing the ground away. Like you are pushing the ground into the other person's face, and your body is just the conduit in between the two. That's like how you throw a proper punch. Is you're literally throwing the ground behind you with your leg, and you're throwing the back of their skull away with your hands. Like that is how you throw proper punches.
Yeah,
and
it's the
kicks and
movement
shit.
of energy. It's just kinetic energy that you start at your heel and then move it up through your body and then ending with the actual connection at your fist.
So another thing he talks about in detail in the book is footwork. Is like you don't want to ever, like, whenever you take a step, you don't like linger balancing on one foot for too long. When you take a step forward, you bring your follow foot up. Like when you take a step to the side, you bring your other foot. Like you guys can't see my feet right now, right? Like when I take a step, like I immediately follow with like my rear foot or with my front foot, whatever the two is. You want both of your feet on the ground as often as possible, so you have a solid base in whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're swinging swords or stabbing with spears or shooting with guns or throwing punches or whatever. You want to be solid against the ground, because like dancing and floating around everywhere is not effective.
Yeah, and that's the idea, like the whole kinetic energy thing, that's actually the idea of flowing like water. If you can imagine that all you have is this ball of kinetic energy, you start the kinetic energy somewhere, right? Usually it's going to be in the footwork, and then it flows through your body as you're making movements. Now let's go ahead and say you miss that punch. Well, that kinetic energy isn't necessarily gone. You can then move your body in a sense that you haven't lost that momentum, and that kinetic energy can then flow back to like into your other fist and go for like a double shot or something, or even like a kicker, all that. But that's the fluid movement that Bruce Lee talks about.
What was the oh shoot, dang it, I forgot. I had something, I totally forgot it. Z, what do you got? What are your thoughts?
I was going to say, are you looking for the word equilibrium, as in the movie reference? I think.
Well,
Twinkie
so yeah,
in on earlier.
Shout out to Twinkie for bringing that movie up earlier. Equilibrium with Christian Bale and Sean Bean. Shout out to Sean Bean, who dies in almost every movie that he's in. What a great character actor. And then Moonpill's talking about Tai Chi slap doubling someone over, which is just absolutely fucking nuts.
When people are the master of the craft and they do it well, like, people get messed up, especially like even like you think of Tai Chi as kind of like a dumb thing, but when someone actually knows how to practically apply it, you get some like really good videos. I can't remember if it's a karate guy or a Tai Chi guy, but there's like some like hoodlum outside his dojo, and then there's security cam footage of like the guy goes out there and just like one shot like hits him with some sort of slap, or I think he goes for maybe like a forearm strike through the neck as a stun, and the guy just gets folded like a chair.
Wait a minute. So
absolutely folded.
Tai Chi is the whole like energy movement thing. Like you imagine you have a ball of energy or whatever, right?
Yes, but it has like a martial art history behind it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that's when I talk about like a ball of kinetic energy, that's literally what I'm talking about. Like you imagine you actually have this ball of energy that's flowing through your body, and wherever you place that, wherever you throw it, that's where it's going to hit. But yeah, that's just my imagination.
I like it.
Fair. Yeah, I think we're good on Wind. We got one more book to get through. Thankfully, it's not going to take us that long. However, I do think it's one that we could probably extrapolate on for a hot minute. Alrighty, here we go. We have the Book of the Void, or Emptiness, depending on your translation. So, whether you're a New International Version or King James, figure it out. We have the final book in Musashi's Book of Five Rings is the Book of the Void, a short book that links the philosophies of that which we can see and that which cannot be seen. We have the first quote here. It says, by knowing things that exist, you can know that which does not exist. And then additionally, the other quote that I have from this one is he kind of goes like a little bit of like back and forth on some stuff. And one of the things he says is that wisdom is existence, but the mind itself is emptiness. And he talks about what is a thing and then what is nothing. And then he also has this one here that says, in the void is virtue and no evil. Wisdom has existence. Principle has existence. The way has existence, but spirit is nothingness. So is this nonsense, or can we derive some wisdom out of this, gentlemen? What do you think?
It's the idea that nothing has a tangible form until something acts upon it and then gives it tangible form. That's the idea. So let's go ahead and go with morality, right? Nothing is evil and nothing is good until somebody says that's a bad thing and that is a good thing. And now you have morality.
Yeah, so it's just like it's all subjective, and it's how you apply it. It's not necessarily the thing itself. It's like fire can be used to burn down your neighbor's house, or it can be used to cook a delicious meal, something like that, perhaps.
So like air doesn't exist because we can't see it, right?
Well, it does exist.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't
But-
exist until we see that it exists.
No.
I don't know where you're going with this, Nate, but I don't think it works because I'm breathing it, so it works.
Yeah, it's
So-
hidden stuff. That's why I oftentimes have trouble when it comes to the whole idea of like empty your mind, right? It's like empty your mind, let there not be any thoughts in there. It's like, well, there's going to be thoughts. Me thinking about trying to empty my mind is going to be a thought itself, and so therefore it can't be empty.
Oh, Yo,
Right?
I have a birds aren't real.
Fucking
We're
Twinkie.
fucking
Yep.
Oh my
right.
god.
Right
It's come
there.
full circle, baby. All right, and the
If I
show,
don't believe in them, the
use it
government drones
responsibly,
can't spy
all
on
that
me.
stuff. Dude, that's great. Yo, have you guys ever done a zero tank, an immersion tank?
Oh, the sensory deprivation tank?
Yes, I have done
have not.
those.
I have
It's
not.
good. I like it.
What is it like?
It's very sensory depraved.
Okay.
It is exactly what you would expect it to be, which is like there's nothing, which means it's all you. It's good. I would encourage you to do it if you're a person of sound mind, if you've got like an iron mind, like some resolution and fortitude, and you're not afraid to be like alone with yourself in the dark, floating in water that you can't feel. It's cool, man. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I would do it again. I would highly recommend everyone do like an immersion tank or a sensory deprivation tank. It's good stuff. Right? And by good
Sweet.
stuff, what I mean is that like, I guess I was ready for it or something. You know,
So-
can
Okay.
anyone ever really be? Oh, Moonpill's done it as well. It's a must. Excellent.
But with that, where I was trying to go with that is like, what is your guys' opinions on that whole like nothingness? Even though there's clearly something there, or there has to be something there.
I've done LSD, so I think that it's pretty easy to just like understand that everything is a campfire story.
So, not to get too like computer on this one, but there's the way that I think about nothingness is that it's kind of like this abstract concept that's hard to understand. But if you do any sort of computer programming and you start to have to deal with the idea of, is there something in a spot? Is there nothing in a spot? Or is the spot empty? Which is that, is it a 1, a 0, or a null? As in,
Yeah.
it's not returning 0, it's returning nothing. I
Yeah.
know to the uninitiated that might sound like a really stupid concept, but there is a difference. It's
Well,
the
I would
difference
say yes versus no versus nothing. That would be a good way to describe it, I think.
Correct. That's a very good way of putting it, which is that specifically when it comes to like space, you can either have, or it's not really a very physical concept, because in physical world, you either have something existing in a space, you have the matter, the material, the object, the whatever in that space, or there's nothing, like outer space, because it's, oh shoot, what is it? One of the laws of physics. It's no two bodies can
things in the
occupy the
same spot.
same place at a single time. It's
Law
that
of
concept.
conservation of matter.
I like
Sounds
mine better. No
eh.
two things in the same spot.
Oh, and no,
Conservation of
that's
matter.
nothing can be destroyed.
It can only change form.
It can only change.
Can't
form.
have
Yeah,
two things.
like that one.
No two things in the same spot, guys. I like that one.
Correct.
That's
but the
Okay,
point
let's go.
is, that when I run my Honda Civic into the back of the semi truck, the two objects cannot cannot exist in the same space. Instead, you just get one pressed against the other. In which case, it's my
Yes.
Honda Civic against the semi truck. So
That
it's
is
that.
correct. I thought you
But
drove
when
a
it
truck.
comes, I used to drive a truck. Unfortunately, I actually drive an Audi now. But that's
Oh.
neither here nor there.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Hey, we got to do what we got to do.
True. But the point about the whole nothingness thing is that understanding that there doesn't always have to be something in a place. You can have nothing in the place, or you can intentionally have nothing in a place. So choosing to either like have nothingness or think about nothingness is a very different concept about like explicitly thinking about nothing. It's kind of like that adage about like guys have the nothing box, which is that sometimes you can just like zone out and you're not thinking about anything. And then you just realize that like, oh wow, I've just kind of been like staring at the wall with drool going down my lip. But
That's the decompression. That's like the video games and the watching the YouTube videos that we were talking about earlier. The world is a tough place, right? For those that don't know, if you guys haven't figured this out already, the world sucks and it's difficult. And sometimes we need to decompress. And so that's where
true.
the nothing box comes in.
Sometimes I think people struggle with the idea of thinking about nothingness, not the idea of thinking about nothing, because that's a bit of an oxymoron or paradoxical. Like if you start thinking about and controlling your breathing, when do you stop thinking about and controlling your breathing? It's like good luck trying to find that delineation point. You stop thinking about it once you kind of enter that nothingness state. But as far as like, someone asked me this the other day. They asked like, when you think about outer space, is it intriguing or is it terrifying? And I was like, I don't really know how to answer that question because it's like, I don't think about it. It's just kind of there. But I guess to some people, when you think about the idea of an ever expanding universe with infinite space, but it's also kind of filled with nothing, but every once in a while it's filled with something very, very big. It's this idea of like, is that either comforting or is it terrifying? Does it interest you? Does it not interest you? Do you think about it? Or is it just like so disassociative that you can't even like wrap your mind around it?
I would say that falls into the low leverage category thinking. It's like why concern yourself with things that you have no control over?
That's fair.
That would
That's
be
very
my
fair, actually.
argument, right? Like so, like when people ask me things like, "Hey, do you have an opinion on this thing that doesn't matter to you?" My answer is usually, "This thing does not matter to me," or something like that. So I have no opinion on it because I only
Are
have.
you trying to tell me that the price of tea in China does not affect your daily life?
Yeah. So like, if I were to go up to Warren Buffett and be like, "Yo, bro, do you ever think about the vastness of space?" He'd probably be like, "No, dude. I'm thinking about stonks and how to buy them and which companies are good." And that's the difference between like why Warren Buffett is Warren Buffett and why like regular everyday plebes are out here thinking about space. It's like, oh, does it scare you? Does it make you feel crazy? It's like, no, dude, I don't think about this shit because I don't care because I got shit to do. It's like I've got to go take the trash out, or I've got to go build this TV tower, or I've got to kill these bugs, or I've got to like project this manage, or whatever the hell, like there's tons of things that need to be done. And like the thinking about trivial problems is for the people who already have all their problems solved. And if they have all their problems solved and they got no bigger problems, then more power to them. But I'm always looking for bigger and better problems.
That's fair. I'm going to pull a bit of a shades of gray on you. Maybe not 50 of them, but when it comes to the whole idea of, gotcha. When it comes to the when it comes to the idea of, are you thinking about useful things? Are you thinking about things that matter? Can you have the practicality standpoint? Like, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Like if you're sitting there thinking about like space when really you need to be thinking about like, oh, hey, it's April 14th and I haven't done my taxes yet.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you should probably stop thinking creatively and go do your taxes. But at the same time, this is kind of a phenomenon that I think people have been pointing out more and more in the modern age, which is that the concept of NPCs, or people who are afraid of creatively thinking and kind of just like don't really want to go that direction. But at the same time, a lot of things that are beautiful and new and genuine are creative thinking things. It's the idea of wondering about things that are not as they are now. Not even that if they're possible, but it's something that is not existing as we have thought about it now, which is that you don't. It's the idea of like there's nothing new under the sun, as opposed to, are you actually inventing something new? Which is, are you remixing something that you've already seen in person and you know kind of works, or are you trying to like be imaginative and think of other stuff? So I think that this is, if you look specifically at writing, you can see it in like the expansion of fiction over the years, which is that I think it was like what, Frankenstein is technically the first science fiction book or something.
Could be.
which
Sure.
which is, and it's not even that crazy out there. But then you can get all the way over to stuff like Dune, where they're talking about like the Navigators Guild and all the houses and the different planets and the Dune worms, and it's like yeah, that's very creative thinking. There is a time and a place for everything, because if you have creative thinking, you can creatively problem solve, which can allow you to solve maybe some of the more practical effects in your life. So yeah, it's delineations. It's neither here nor there. Everything's a balance, that whole thing. All right, gentlemen, I think we got time for one more topic, and I did want to hit on this one. So in this one, we have the quote that says, by knowing things that exist, you can know that which does not exist. This is one of the ways that I kind of explain to people how when you really immerse yourself in a space, this is kind of how you can level up or you can progress in skill, which is that I think of like the legal stuff that I've been harping on for like the last 3 months, which is that when I talk to Nuclear Herbs on Twitter about what's going on, when you read some of the things in court rulings, part of having that like expertise and the knowledge is not being able to read the document and understand what the document says, but understand what else the document specifically leaves out, which is that by knowing the things that exist, you can look at the thing you're trying to analyze and see that which it does not touch, which is like when we had the initial XRP ruling come out, everyone and their mother was like on Twitter saying like, oh, XRP and a bunch of these other things were deemed not securities. And it's like, no. The SEC specifically decided to drop the investigation into if they're securities or not. There's a difference, and it's the difference in kind that kind of gives you that level of expertise and understanding what's going on. And the way that you get there is through experience and knowledge. So that way, by, again, the quote, by knowing things that exist, you can know that which does not exist. So by understanding the space that you operate in as a whole, you're able, instead of just like seeing the information fed to you, you can interpret and extrapolate it to the other stuff. What do you guys think about this?
That right there is what we were talking about earlier about mastering the basics, right? Kind of like what I was talking about with my own job. You know, I know the basics of what the chemicals do. I know how wasps tend to work, right? I know how the ants tend to work, but do I know the specific ones? No. Do I know specifically what a German yellow jacket does versus an Asian yellow jacket? Well, I do now because I learned it, but no, not before. So, but I was still able to treat them just fine in my early years, you know? So it's like, if you know the basics, you're able to take the stuff that operate off of those basics, and you're able to kind of just be burnt, kind of like how a tree works, right? A tree just starts in the ground, goes straight up, and then all of a sudden you got a bunch of branches off, right? You can start there, and then you can start thinking, okay, well, this is the logical trail of going this direction. There you go, bam. And also, that's how you get mastery as well, because the longer you do it, the more every time you're going off of a new branch and all that, that's something new. You're learning new stuff, and yeah, absolute mastery right there.
I like the branch analogy, the tree branch analogy. I often find myself thinking about like conversations as trees, you know, where like you've got the main trunk, which is the general direction, like this book club, right? Like we've gone several times off topic, like just sparsing out like into a branch, then into a stick, then onto a twig, then onto a leaf, right? And then Zenith pulls us back onto like the branch, and then we go to the next part of the tree, and then we branch off, and then we fork, and we go to a stick, and we go to a twig, and then we like get more and more like detailed and whatever that. I actually started I started a thing with my coworker Levi the other day where I like I pulled out my phone while we were having a conversation at IHOP, and I was like, hey bro, I'm gonna draw this like little thing, and because like when I take the stylus out of my phone, it allows me to draw on my screen. And so I was like, okay, this is the thing we're talking about, like yada yada yada, the main topic. And then like I kept drawing branches every time we would talk about a new different thing, and it was super cool because it allowed us to like go back in the conversation and be like, okay, we've exhausted this, we've exhausted that, we've exhausted this, and now we're talking about this, that, and the other sort of thing. So kind of a little bit of a tangent of what we were talking about. You know, I'm taking a branch and shooting off into a twig right now.
It's how new ideas are created.
Exactly.
It's how new ideas are explored, because
yeah.
we are exploring a new branch and we just talk about it together, you know?
Yep. Man, that's a super fun exercise for people to do, though. I highly recommend it. If you ever carry around like pieces of pens and pieces of paper, like if you're having a conversation with someone and you want to remember the conversation, like drawing a tree for this like a visual tree for this conversation is like an interesting technique to remember things that we talk about and stuff. But this is
It's
totally
true.
off subject of whatever it was
Yeah.
that you were trying to ask us, Zenith.
Maybe a
What's
little
the
bit, but
original?
before we wrap this up, I do want to ask you, do you remember one of the early book club episodes we did where the author talked about how you can map a conversation as a line, and then if you get further away from the line, that's more of the deviations? Do you
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
which one
yeah,
that
yeah.
was?
I don't remember the book exactly.
Oh, come on.
I
I'm going to
dude,
show you. You're going to feel dumb.
I don't
I
I
thought that
don't
was Deadpool
remember.
or the
Dude, I
multiverse,
literally
whatever.
you know what I use for remembering Zenith? I use this thing. Oh, Jordan Belfort. No kidding.
Yeah, Way of the
Wow.
Wolf, the straight line selling method.
Good shit. I like that.
Talked about how your open and close should be driving exactly from the start to the close, and anytime you deviate, you're talking somewhere between Pluto and Uranus.
I like that. Dude, I don't use my brain for remembering. I use my phone for remembering. I use my computer for remembering. I use like pieces of pens and paper. I keep this gray squishy stuff. This is for ideas. Ooh, that's actually on that topic. While we're in the closeout, I have the next book that I want to host for us. So we have two books that I'm going to host coming up. Have you thought about the next book for your next book club? Have you done that
Yeah,
yet?
I know what the next one's gonna be.
Dude,
It's gonna make Mrs. Producer very happy.
should we make a schedule?
We can make a schedule, or we can just
can
tell
make a
people right
schedule?
now and make a schedule.
Okay, so the next book that I'm hosting next week, a week from today, is going to be the Toyota Way. What's the next one you're doing?
I'm gonna be doing Ender's Game.
Oh shit, dog! Oh man, Mrs. Producer is going to be stoked for that one. Shout out to Mrs. McGettit. She's been asking us to do that one for fucking ever. The book that I'm going to do after the Ender's Game and the Toyota Way is I'm going to be doing Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain. So that's gonna be in there as well. So
There you go. We got the next 3 weeks of our lives planned out. Look at that.
oh, that's a fucking month. That's a month of book club for you folks at home. We do it live. Should we go ahead and move to close? Did you have any other questions for us for this final topic?
Nope, we can't. Well, we'll do a quick wrap up of this one. So,
Okay.
the Book of the Void, or the Book of Emptiness, is definitely the one where he gets away from the swords and talks about, like, he definitely makes the philosophical statements on this one, especially the one where he goes through the sentence of, like, in the void is virtue and no evil, wisdom has existence, principle has existence, and the way has existence, but spirit is nothingness. There's ways to read that one. I personally don't have a really good take on it. So if anyone out there wants to like enlighten me on what exactly that means, I think that Nate, you had an interesting line of thought in the beginning where you talked about how in the emptiness there is no virtue, but once you start to declare virtue, there is virtue, or when someone declares something good or bad, that is where the virtue is derived from. That's definitely in the moral relativism camp, which I personally kind of like think is easily debunked because, or how about not debunked, but it's not very practical or fruitful in the human society sense, which is that if you just deem anything as your moral compass, then it means that you can actively just choose to be contrarian and just fight whatever human flourishing exists. So
Oh yeah, for sure. I was going to the base level, like
I hear you. I see you.
Yeah.
We've talked about this plenty of times before. I'm sure the audience is not ready for me to go on a soapbox about relativism and then utilitarianism and then natural law and then all that stuff. Yeah, because we're an hour 57 in. If you want that, go check out one of our earlier episodes. I think, oh god, there was one of the episodes where it was one of the Sci-Vive chapters where Richard Hart was talking about the concept of cheating, and then I want to say it was Farmer who got me going on freaking like just war theory or something. So apologies for anyone that had to survive through that one, unless you got value out of it, in which case you're welcome.
It was probably a good time. I'd be willing to bet it was a good time. We have nothing but good times.
We had fun. We had fun. I can guarantee you that one. Because Will, I remember how I felt. I don't exactly remember exactly what was said.
Ooh, yes.
Is that a Will-ism?
Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
We're going to go to some final chat shoutouts. We have two that I want to pick out. Moonpill Rational Optics talked about reading between the lines. That is specifically the concept I was trying to highlight previously with the idea of like, if you know the things that exist, you're able to pick out the things that don't exist. That is literally just reading between the lines. You can find ways to do it in your everyday life and try to use that to get better understanding of the actions that people take and the reasons that they make those moves. And then additionally, we have the most recent comments from Mr. Angry Twinkie. He says, I also wonder if we lack the appropriate language which cascades into understanding and conceptualizing. You know, if there was a language that was maybe not the best at doing that, I would argue it might be English.
Yeah, dude. Fucking English is a crazy language. Yo, quick shout out to English using a Roman alphabet system with a Germanic dialect. So shout out to English out there. There's some people out there who have made a better alphabet for English that includes 48 characters. That's like it's got like the ch, the ch, the th, the gh. You know, all those like random ass like sh, all those random like little consonants and things. But it's a 48 letter language. It's super cool and interesting.
You know
So
what's
shout
really
out to
cool
that
about it
guy.
too is there's always new words being created as well.
Yeah. Oh man, no cap for real on God, sheesh, fam.
Yeah.
Got that
Kids would say.
skibbity Ohio Riz.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
I
Hey,
will
shout
say
out to
one of
all
the
the
things
kids
that
out
I'm
there.
one of the things I'm genuinely enjoying right now is watching the Zoomers just get out lingoed by the Gen Alpha folks, and it's like, congratulations, I'm watching you become an old person in real time.
Ooh, that's fun. I
'Cause
wonder when
they're experiencing the darn kids in that language that doesn't make any sense.
oh my god.
Soon enough, they're going to complain about where the height of their pants in relation to their belly button.
Jesus
Well,
Christ.
welcome to the club, Zoomers. Welcome to the club.
Oh my god. I have
Alrighty.
posted our schedule in the DGen Roundtable book club, which I will drop the link again for here in the near future. Go ahead, Zenith. What you got?
True. I was just gonna say, let's get it going. Nate, take us out, brother. For the final close, let's talk about how do we value this book in the library of books that we've covered so far. Where does this fall?
There's an interesting ideas in it. There are definitely things you can glean from it. I personally didn't really care for it too much because there's way too much of taking something he's saying and then trying to like convert it into being able to use it, you know, which I'm sure you could tell because I was stumbling over my words quite a bit, and it was because I was doing so much of that today. I'm like, wait a minute, so basically what he's saying is this, right?
I can
And it's
feel
like,
that.
oh, yeah, so there is that. Also, it's Friday. But yeah, no, I would just call it an okay book. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. The whole idea of like nothingness and all that at the very end was like, for me, that's an extremely difficult concept because literally the only emptiness where there is actually nothing I can think of is the literal death of the universe. In like the Big Crunch, when 10 to the 100th power of years literally happens where all the black holes eat each other into one supermassive black hole. It takes all matter and literally brings it down to the size of an atom in the universe, and then we can explode from there and start over again. But even then, though, you still have the ether, right? And like we're just now discovering the ether, which is like unlimited energy. So it's like that's still there, or is that just like another dimension? And is there always dimension of new stuff? So there's really truly nothing. I can't comprehend the idea of absolute nothing anymore. That's just me. So like whenever I'm hearing these people, it's usually the old Eastern philosophies and stuff like empty your mind and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? How the hell would you do that? And what use is that anyways? But I think there's got to be a different meaning that I think is just flying over my head.
Fair enough. You know, to use a good quote from this book that was used about 77 times, this too requires further study.
This too requires further study. Bro, I was blown away when I learned that strategy meant sword fighting. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I was like halfway through the book when I realized that like when he was talking about like strategy or something, he meant like literally dueling people with swords. I was like, he won a battle of strategy? What the fuck does that mean? Or yada yada yada. And then like he said it in
It
one of his
means
later
he
chapters.
is the stick master. I am
Yeah,
the
no
one
kidding.
with the sticks.
Jesus Christ. Oh man.
All right, Nate, plug the socials, my brother, and then we're gonna pass it over to the Will.
Yes. So I am the Ascending Man from the DGen Roundtable, Nate McGettit, and you can find me in the Telegram, which is right there. Just hold up your phone if you haven't already gotten in there. I don't know why you're not in there. Like, there's a lot of things that I'm throwing in, finding a lot of information. By the way, that whale that I pointed out, I think it was it Sunday or Wednesday. He has completely removed all of his funds from the Ethereum network, and it's now all on Pulse Chain, and that's been quite a bit. So yeah, he's got almost $600,000 just in stables and ETH sitting on Pulse Chain. So awesome. But you would know all of this and get excited if you were in here, this particular spot, right? But aside from that, the other thing is go ahead, follow me on my Twitter, which I actually do need to go pull up and put in the chat here real quick. But I am going through a lot of information. You'll see that stuff there. I've got a lot of breaking information that happens all the time. I'm in a lot of those like news groups and stuff. So as soon as something breaks, I like to throw the information in there and kind of like my thoughts on it and stuff like that, things to look for. It is bam right there. Hell yeah. All right. So yeah, if you're not following me, I would suggest to do so. You'll get a lot of good information from a lot of things happening around the crypto realm, as I try and put out as much valuable information as I possibly can. So with that being said, Will, where can the people find you?
The folks at home who don't know anything about me, you guys can find me at will.pls.fyi. That is where all of my socials are linked. So if you want to stalk me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, over here at the DGen Roundtable, then that would be the way to do it. I've gone ahead and dropped that link for you guys in the chat. Other than that, the best and the coolest link for you guys to go and check out is the bit.ly link that is just under my name that I normally have. It is bit.ly/hex_meetup. And that bit.ly link will take you into a Telegram where you can go and meet up with other Hexicans. Pretty cool stuff. You could also type in t.me/hex_meetup, and that will bring you into the very same Telegram group. The thing that I've done with this bit.ly link, though, is I have linked it to start. Like, it takes you into the Telegram group, but it puts you directly at the first message of the Start Here program, which will explain to you how to use this Telegram. So that way you guys can go and meet other Hexicans or meet other crypto people or meet other like cool dudes that just so happen to be in the Hex Meetup channel. As far as stuff going up in the near future, I have posted in the DGen Roundtable Book Club Telegram the schedule. So there is now a schedule Telegram thing, and I'll go ahead and drop that link in the channel as well. So if you guys aren't already a member of the DGen Roundtable Book Club, it is t.me/DGen Book Club, and that specific message there, number 879, is the very first creation of the schedule topic. So now we will have a schedule. And as we come up with cool books and as we come up with more ideas, I will put them in the schedule, or any one of the other admins in the channel will put them in the schedule. The topic is closed for conversation, so regular people cannot post in there. This is just so you guys know what books are in the near future. So if you want to get some reading done before we cover the books on Book Club, then that would be the place to go check it out. Other than that, I've got nothing special going on in the near future. I'm hanging out with one of my good friends over the weekend, so shout out, and stoked to see them as they fly into the airport later tonight. I'm gonna go pick them up. And other than that, we got our flag show on Sunday coming up, which is going to be a good one. I don't know exactly what news articles we're covering because I haven't looked at them yet, but I'm sure it's going to be fun. Zenith, why don't you go ahead and take us away, my friend, and get us on out of here?
Will do good, buddy. Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, we are going to hit the chats one last time. We had a few people sneak in last minute, actually. So, with that being said, let's get to it. All right, up first we have Chad Donner Schwanz. He says, hello, fellow based crypto bros. Hello, my fellow based crypto bro as well. Glad to have you on a beautiful Friday. Up next, we got another book club fan. We got Yellowtail saying, hey guys, good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. And then we have, last but not least, I think he's had a profession change lately, but we have Pulse Jitsu crypto farming with Fast Abdul. I don't know if he's still doing the whole camel trading business or maybe he's diversified his portfolio. But yes, we have one ring to rule them all. A good JRR token. Jerry Randall token reference there. That's
can you guys see the inscription on the camera? Probably not.
Cannot.
That is
read it out to us.
The ring. Oh, it says Ajnax Derbaktulum Ajnaz Gimbatul Ajnaz Brakatuluk Ag Burzum Ishi Krimpatul, which means one ring to rule them all.
You know old Elven?
It's not Elven. That's the tongue of Mordor, but it's written in the
tongue
Elven.
of Mordor. That's ancient Elven. You gotta read the Silmarillion for that one.
It's written in the. I haven't read the Silmarillion yet. That's a process in and of itself. So I'm going to wait till I watch all of the content that's made before I read the book, because fun hack for the folks at home. If you guys don't want to be disappointed by the movies, you watch the movies before you read the fucking book. That way the book can fill in the gaps that are left by the movies. You can have a better experience. So that's my
But
my
Will,
books are even
what do you,
better.
but Will, what do you do if you are just a person that believes that Tolkien single-handedly stagnated an entire genre for about 60 to 70 years?
I don't know what that. Oh, you mean like did he kill folklore?
No, I mean that Tolkien is kind of the person that, ever since Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings, every other kind of like high fantasy or epic fantasy has pretty much just ripped off his world building. So you get very generic elves, and then a lot of the stories that are like, we have a human, an elf, and a dwarf.
So
Thank
so
God,
what
thank
that
God,
tells me is
because
that
anime, you get those awesome elf chicks.
that tells me that other people suck at coming up with their own ideas, and all they're good at is copying. That's not a knock on
Hollywood.
Tolkien. That's like a reason to flatter Tolkien, because he created something so good that other people can't create anything better. So it's like, hey, idiots, pull your heads out of your ass, create something better, or just like stop making some half-ass products. So like,
I'm
as
not
far
arguing that it's not good. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it was successful and people copied the success instead of trying to iterate and innovate. And instead you
yeah,
get some very generic elves all over the place.
well, but that's not Tolkien's fault. That's everyone else's process. That's everyone else's fault that copies the process.
I
So
hear
like,
you, but
he
at the same
made something
time,
that's so good that it's copyable, and people
I
copy it.
promise I'm trying. I don't try to just be a contrarian asshole just to piss off my friends, because I do have a friend that's kind of like that, and it does get a little annoying. But at the same time, I will absolutely stand out here and tell you that the Lord of the Rings franchise is kind of overrated, and I don't think that the second movie needed to exist.
I mean, you're allowed to have your opinions.
I'm allowed to be wrong.
No, it's not that you're allowed to be wrong. It's not right or wrong. You can choose if you like gay sex. You can choose if you like pickles on your hamburgers. You can choose whatever you like, bro. I am
pickles
not
on
here to
hamburgers.
judge you, right?
You're an
Some
absolute
people
menace.
some people are correct
And
some
tomatoes.
people are incorrect. But everyone's allowed to have their opinions, right? And you don't have to like the same things that I like, my dude.
You know, there's
That's
kind of like the
perfectly fine.
master class where people talk about like the old Ronald Reagan debates, where he does the thing where he like brings up the concept, the issue of age, but making a joke out of it. He's like, look, I'm not going to bring up the fact that my opponent is younger and less experienced than me. I'm not going to make an issue out of that during this debate or anything. But it's like the joke is that he clearly just did that.
Yeah.
And then Will's like, look, you could say that you don't like Lord of the Rings, but you can also say you enjoy gay sex. So I mean, that's on you, man. But like, well, thank you for that. Really, just
I'm
that.
planting seeds. Look,
Aikido.
you started this. What I'm doing is I'm
That's
describing a
That's
cool
fair.
thing
I did
that I'm
start this.
fond
I
of.
did start this.
I'm describing a cool thing that I'm fond of, and you said I'm not fond of it, and I said, bro, it's okay if you're not fond of it. It's also okay if other people like some hedonistic shit. So, like,
That's
This
fair.
reminds me
That's
of
fair.
when
I guess
they-
I did bring this up. I've spent so many hours arguing this with my friends. I think it just comes out of me naturally, and I apologize.
that's fine.
But
I'm not here to
anyways-
argue, amigo. I have no enemies. Vagabonds, or not vagabond. Fuck, what's that
Argue.
other saga? I have no
Argue.
enemies.
The arguing makes for good TV, though. So
It does make for good TV. That's
I
what
don't
the
know if we're
folks
trying to
came
be-
here for.
good TV or clickbait merchanting. Who knows? Either way,
That could be
I'll
it.
say this though. I do. Moonpilled Rational Optics, I think, had the quote when it comes to my summarization about how I feel about the book, which is that by itself, this book kind of falls in the middle of the pack, yet it is very useful knowledge if applied to all the other books and the knowledge that you take in. That's one of the things that I think that we were trying to highlight with this stream in particular, which is that some of the books we breezed through, some of the books we actually stuck on for a hot minute, and then some of which we kind of got a little sidetracked, or we thought it was more tangentially related to other stuff. So I think that this book, it's an interesting look back into the life of like a true warrior and a master of a craft. And I think there's something to be said about that. But at the same time, there's historical context that goes into it. And there's also relevancy to like the issues that they faced back then are not the issues that we face now. You can absolutely draw parallels and similarities, which I think you should, because it kind of goes back to the old adage, which is like learn from the mistakes of others so that you're not the one teaching other people about your mistakes. But it's that kind of thing. So for me, in regards to the Will Stevenson 0 to 10,000 hours mastery scale, I think this is definitely a post 5,000 hours book if you want to truly get value out of it. Because this is one of those things where it's like, even in the Book of the Void, I know I keep coming back to this quote, which is by knowing things that exist, you can know that which does not exist, which is that you kind of have to have a base level of knowledge before you read this book to really get some value out of it. Because otherwise you're just going to see this as a book of talking about sword fighting.
Yeah. I think I would throw probably in the realm between 50 to 200 hours. That's what I would do.
Really?
Yeah, and
That's
here's
real
my
early
reason.
on.
Well, so here's my reason is to not is to just so there's people that are beginning something and they're learning and they're like, fuck,
That's
I
where I was
need
going
more
with it.
information, right? But like Musashi doesn't give a whole lot of information. He says you need to keep fucking working, right? And so I would see this book as basically the inspiration to take action and to continue. Like some people will quit after 50 hours, right? And so I would say that this book is useful insofar as it'll get you to keep going after your 50 hours. And if you decide that that like whatever your hourly path is, if it's not for you, then you pull chocks and fly away, right? You know, you get the fuck out of there and you do the next thing. You move on to the next thing, and then you get mastery in that. And then once you start getting mastery in that, then you go back and you read this book again, right?
That's
But
fair. I think you and I took two different paths of logic to get there, which is that you're saying that this is going to be a bit of a motivational book to let you know that, like, hey, you got a long road ahead of you, but like keep going.
Yep.
And then I was kind of tackling it more from like, there was a quote that I heard recently that's kind of stuck with me recently, which is that a lot of books, especially important ones, it's not that the person is inventing a new idea. What they're doing is that they might be one of the first people to like actually summarize it or put it on paper in a way that you can like properly describe a thought, a feeling, or an experience. So for me, I'm like, once you have a good amount of experience, this book actually does lay out and summarize some of those principles or those ideas that you've probably experienced and like known to be true, but like maybe struggle with like actually like speaking and like trying to like say this is what it is and this is how you're going to define it. This is one of the ways that I look at this book, which is that it's good for later on if you want to synthesize some of your experiences and really put it on paper and be able to articulate it and talk about it.
I just thought that basically right here, Will was like, well, I mean, you kind of already sort of need to know the materials to really try and convert the whole sword fighting aspect to being able to use it for real life. You know, so I don't think you actually need to go in such in such depth as you said, right? However, but at the same time, if you're starting off with like stoicism and all that, right? If you've never really heard of that, never really heard of the philosophy, if you're starting there, you know, it's your experience, then yeah, you know, let's go ahead and go with how long you said there, Zenith. That's kind of the direction I was going with it. How much do you actually know of the material to start with? How much experience?
Oh God,
I'm
I think
sorry.
we just
I
got
just got distracted. Sorry, Nate. Fucking moon-pilled rational optics just fucking flew in here out of nowhere. Nate and Zenith, whatever you, Mrs. Producer, do you mind pulling this up? Nate and Zenith, whatever you do not have Will recommend reading the Necronomicon.
You know, he was saying that when you were speaking
I've lost my hand
when you were
turned into
speaking
a
gibberish
chainsaw.
there for the ring, he was like, "Oh my God, Will is summoning demons."
Yep, yeah, I'd seen that earlier. Yeah.
True. I also was looking at the thing in the chat where Will asked a rhetorical question and instead Mrs. Producer and Sam kind of dunked on him a little bit.
Yes.
Which was, which part of your pizza is your favorite, the pepperoni, the sauce, or the bread? And then we have a very swift response from multiple people saying the cheese.
All right, go eat a handful of cheese then and tell me how much better it is than eating pizza.
Dude,
I will. Actually, we do cheese curds out here in Wisconsin, man.
I 100%.
I know.
Cheese is my
Well,
favorite.
Will, before stream today, I literally had one of my favorite snacks, which is just like a slice of mozzarella.
I don't look. I
cheddar.
don't disagree. And perhaps I chose a bad analogy to make my point that all three books of the Lord of the Rings are essential. If you read one of the books of the Lord of the Rings without reading the other ones, then you're cutting yourself out of like an important part of the process. Now, I will
thought
say
the analogy you're making was that if you enjoy Lord of the Rings, you enjoy gay sex. Is that
could
what
be
you
that could be it. Hey, you know, some people are gay. I almost chose some not so colorful language there. Some people are gay. Some
This has
people
already
like
been
Lord
a
of the
colorful
Rings.
stream, my friend.
Some people like cheese. Some people, okay, so like the point is the sum of the parts is better than each individual, right?
Some of the parts
If
is
you
greater,
had-
or the whole
if
is
you
greater than
had-
the sum of the parts.
If you had a cheese pizza, which is bread, sauce, and cheese, if you had a cheese pizza and you
And
also
spices.
had a block of cheese, which would you choose to eat? Now,
Cheese.
Now, I know that some people are going to be disagreeable and they're going to say they would choose the cheese. But realistically speaking,
I'm
most
going for
people
pizza.
would probably choose the pizza, right? If we're being honest here.
Well, I
And
will
it-
say this though. One of my favorite pizza joints here locally is, and my selling point for it whenever people come visit is that I like this place because they have a good, not that, dear God, not that. Is that this is about as close as you're going to get to a good Brooklyn slice, and the best part of the pizza is the cheese, because this is one of the places that actually goes out of their way to use whole milk mozzarella on their pizza, and you can taste it, and it's damn good.
I'm not saying that Little Caesars is delicious, but what I am saying is that Little Caesars is hot and it's ready.
And it
That's
is
their claim
technically
to
a
fame.
pizza.
They're hot, they're ready, and that's what I need. That solves my problems, and they're not
Correct,
that far
but
away
Will,
from the job site.
by knowing that which Little Caesars serves, you also can know that which Little Caesar does not serve.
Oh, they do not serve stab-proof clothing, so there's that.
All right. We're closing it. We're getting too long.
closing.
I mean, fucking
We're
fair
going
enough,
too far.
right?
I do like they got bro. Okay, before we close, Little Caesars has essentially made pizza muffins, where it's a pizza but it's the size of a fucking muffin. They're called pizza bites, and they sell them at Little Caesars in little packs of 4. And it's like if you cooked a pizza in a muffin tray, and instead of having a whole fucking pizza, you have a little tiny bite-sized pizza, and you eat it, and it's good. And then it's like,
Uh-huh.
oh, time for the next
She
one.
cooks those for me. She
They're
actually
fucking-
she was making those before Little Caesars freaking
Yeah.
made them.
Yep.
It was
I'm
one of
not
my
gonna
favorite.
say
Shout out to Miss Producer.
I'm not gonna say that Little Caesars is doing some copyright infringement, but I think back in the late '90s, someone invented a bagel bite or the pizza bagel. So
That it was a flop. They didn't get the ratios right. They didn't have enough. They didn't have a Little Caesars dough, which is full of sugars and all sorts of craziness. They didn't have the right ratio of grease. Like bagel bites is like it's whatever. It's mediocre at best, right? Mrs. Producer. Oh my god.
This has turned into the way of the 5 onion rings. Correct. Thank you, Moonfield.
Oh, bro. Okay.
And on that note, I suppose we can close out, right?
Zenith,
That's what we
take us
got.
out of here, bro.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch me at Zenith DI on Instagram and
that's
Twitter. We are going to be having our usual Sunday stream this Sunday. We're going to be talking about everything that Nate mentioned, and we might have a bit of a surprise in regards to one of the promotions that we are helping our good friends RG3, A Wild SJ, and Black Hexagon put on, which is Pulse Chain Tour Las Vegas 2025. Wow, that year is already getting past me at this point. We're in the future, boys. We're in the future. But if you're interested in going to Las Vegas March 6th through the 9th for the Pulse Chain Tour event, there is many, many events to be had and a golf tournament at the end that I will be playing in. And I hope to see you all there as well. But if you're interested in saving some money on that, if you book now before the end of August and you use code DGEN, DEGEN, you will get 36.9% off your ticket price. So get in there, use the code DGEN, and if we do well enough, we might actually get a little bit of support from our friends, and they might help us compensate some tickets here and there, maybe for us, maybe for a giveaway that we do. Who knows? We will see. But either way, RG3 has been putting on the Pulse Chain Conference for a hot minute now, and he's been doing it, honestly, largely out of pocket as well, but he's done a very good job of it, and we're more than happy to support our friends and help build a positive, constructive view of the future for Hexicans and the crypto community as a whole. RG3 has talked about filling up conference rooms in the past, and we want to help him fill up stadiums in the future. So I hope that we see you guys in Vegas, and we'll be booking our tickets shortly as well. Outside of that, we got everything else going on. Trying to have a guest on Wednesday. We got book club next Friday. We're doing the Toyota Way. And then after that, we're back again for the Sunday show. So other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for spending your time here with us tonight. We hope that we provide value every time you show up, because we know time is your most valuable asset. So thank you for spending it here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we got for this evening. And until we catch you guys next time, I want everyone to degen responsibly.